Council meeting of November 26, 2012 to order. We will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mrs. Mello?
Councilor Gerlach.
Present.
Councilor Ruda.
Present.
Councilor Shabbat.
Present.
Councilor Lambert.
Present.
Councilor Roderick.
Present.
Councilor DiMederos.
Present.
Councilor Pelletier.
Yes, ma'am.
All present.
Okay, before we go into the consent agenda, I just want to clarify some things. There is a difference between an open meeting and a hearing. When you have an open meeting that this council is having at this present, that means you have the right to listen to everything that is being said. It does not mean you have the right to get up to discuss every single item that's on the agenda. There may be times when the council may welcome your remarks, but in order to keep the agenda moving, I'm going to ask that, unless it's something absolutely critical, that time that's on the agenda is actually for the council to discuss what is on that agenda item. When you have an open hearing, obviously, that's different. That is, you're inviting the public to speak on whatever the particular issue is. So I'm asking everyone to be patient with us and understand that that's how I would like to run things, so that we're not going over things over and over again before the council actually has an opportunity to discuss it. Thank you. We have the consent agenda. With the approval of minutes from the regular council meeting of November 13, 2012, receipt of minutes from the following boards and commissions: Economic Development, Art Council, Prevention Coalition, Cemetery Commission. Correspondence received and filed from the Newport County Mental Health, Charleston Town Council, a resolution in support of Low and Moderate Income Housing Act, from Representative Edwards to Major General Kevin McBride of the Rhode Island National Guard regarding Hurricane Sandy cleanup, from the Rhode Island DOT regarding roadway damage caused by Hurricane Sandy, approval of the tax assessor abatements, letter from Kate Michaud, Planning Board Administrative Officer, the October activity report, from Councilor Gerlach, reviews current status of Stafford Pond water quality, including water quality testing for 2010-2012, Town Administrator, distribution of letter from Economic Development Foundation requesting funding in upcoming budget. Town Administrator, distribution of the police pension plan reports. From Denise Surratt, Treasurer, distribution of the October budget and revenue reports. Schedule special meeting of January 7th, 2013 for council goals and review. Schedule a public hearing for amendment to Code of Ordinance, Chapter 78, Traffic and Vehicles for no parking and stop signs. From Councilor Lambert, Odell versus Tiverton et al., discussion and possible action referred to the town administrator and town solicitor for scheduling. Extended an invitation to Attorney Olivero to discuss an executive session, and extend to Attorney Fabish an invitation to present an executive session. Also from Councilor Lambert, request status report from town administrator, town treasurer, unreserved general fund, and this has been referred for a report on the December 10th meeting. Are there any items that you wish to remove?
Mr. President, I just have a simple question on A12.
CA12, okay.
Yes, sir.
I'd like CA8 removed just so I can recuse myself.
CA8.
I like C87 removed. CA7.
Okay. Any others? Okay, at this time, will somebody make a motion for the rest of the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion, a second, all in favor? Okay, we'll begin with CA7.
This is really just a simple question for Jim. Is this a budget request? This would go into the new budget?
Yes, it is. And it will be going into the new budget.
Shouldn't we discuss this when we discuss the budget as a whole, instead of just pulling out certain things?
Yes, this is just informational at this point.
All right, so this isn't a vote to approve the money?
No, it is not.
That's all I'm asking. Thank you.
Do we have a motion on CA7?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, all in favor? Opposed?
Can I just, excuse me, Mr. Chairman, if I may, just to clarify, because I think someone asking, basically, as indicated on the consent agenda, it was just a distribution. And I think what you're looking for, I'll suggest language for you going forward, that motion to receive and file is often what you're looking for, I think, where you've got, the information comes to you, you want to deal with it, you don't want to keep coming back and back, but you've got it, so that's a good way to deal with it from a parliamentary point of view.
Thank you, Mr. Tights. Okay. CA 8.
I'm just going to step away.
Do we have any discussion or motion on CA 8? Police pension plan report?
I just have one question. This is just...
Wait,
Oh.
we have a motion, we need a second, then we can discuss it.
Second.
Okay, discussion?
This is a request for an RFP only. Is that correct?
What you have before you? No, it isn't.
Okay.
It's just the report from the last pension board meeting, and it's indicating that we will be researching an RFP for a new administrator, as the current administrator is not going to be serving municipalities anymore from this standpoint. So we're going to be looking for a new bank to handle it.
Okay.
And Jim, the council will be able to review the RFP before it goes out?
Sure. It first gets reviewed by the pension board, and then we can bring it to the council.
Okay, we have a motion, and a second. All in favor? Opposed? Mr. Pelletier is back. Okay. CA 12. Mr. Lambert.
Yes, my question is, we're just basically voting on the two items listed on our agenda. There was one other item that was on the request that's not on the agenda.
That's because that agenda request has been separated, because we can't handle that agenda request because we don't know if Mr. Oliverio or Mr. Fabish would be able to make it. So we separated it for what could be on the consent agenda. And that way, the administrator and the solicitor will contact these attorneys and see when they can get it. At that time, Mr. Lambert agreed that he would bring back, we would put his full item on.
Okay.
But there's no sense discussing one part without the other.
Right. I was just making sure there's more than one part there, so.
Right, because that is Mr. Lambert's
Okay.
agenda item, and he's aware of it.
All right.
Yeah, and my usual message to Mrs. Mello is, use your discretion in scheduling this. Don't crowd it all together. And I leave it to Mrs. Mello to do that.
Okay, that's all.
Okay. Do we have a motion on CA 12?
So moved.
Second? Do we have a second? Second. All those in favor? Okay, motion's passed. Okay, now is the open public forum. Mr. Bennis.
Yes, is this working? All right. I would like to take this opportunity to do something that I would like to have done on the 13th, but there was no open forum. I'd like to take the opportunity to thank the town council of 2010-2012, all 7 members, for being the best town council that I have seen in the last 30 years, and for following the Tiverton Town Charter and the state laws that previous town councils have often violated, and also for having proper consideration for all taxpayers, all residents, and all employees. I would also like the opportunity to wish the incoming town council good luck, and to advise the incoming town council that they will have a hard time following the town council of 2010 through 2012. If you follow the town charter and state laws as closely as your predecessors of 2010 and 2012 have followed them, the new town council can expect false statements similar to those received by your predecessors. Good luck.
Thank you. Mrs. Pelletier?
Good evening, Barbara Pelletier. I have a couple of items, one of them being from the tourism, and I did submit a report, which I guess you have in front of me, which is more extensive than what I'm going to say right now. We have received an extra $500 from Go Newport for our development of the brochure, so it's quite essential that anyone who wants to send Tiverton forward in any kind of great manner contact me. So we're developing the brochure, and tomorrow morning, actually, I'm going to be in Newport on a morning workshop on how to bundle stuff and make things look more attractive. So in any case, let me know, get in touch with me, or let Mrs. Mello know, and she'll contact me. The other thing is, and I think Mr. Pelletier is going to, no relation by the way, is going to perhaps address that, is it would be great if we had some sort of mini chamber of commerce that could interact with the business people, or have just a business-focused forum that's a private thing that can meet Coastal Roasters or Black Goose or anywhere, but on a regular basis, and things be brought forward and that, and have a representative down in Newport, which I guess I was told Mr. Nelson was our representative to.
To the chamber, yes.
Yeah, we're going to be talking about that a little
Right.
later tonight. We're going to be appointing a board member. There's one representative from each of the municipalities to sit on the board of the Newport Chamber, and we need to appoint someone tonight or in the near term.
Right, because it's quite useless to spin your wheels on two different fronts, and when you can do a combined effort and get much further along the way. I did attend a meeting last week down at the toll booth at Jamestown, and there's a more extensive report about that. But one thing that we could look into is that Jamestown itself enjoys a privilege of a flat fee per month crossing the bridge to Newport, the Newport Bridge, any number of times which they wish. So if you have a child over and go back and forth 5-6 times a day, perhaps that's a great thing to propose to the people who are coming at the meeting on the 4th of December.
Right now it's the 4th.
Yeah.
The
Yes.
4th.
Yeah. So that's something that you should look into. And I was told by Mr. Bennis to please remind everyone that Joy has a meeting tomorrow night on getting organized. The other great thing is we installed 2 more poop stations in town from Placing Paws. So we now have 5, which probably puts us at the head of the poop stations in the state per town, and maybe we get an award, who knows? You have to look at it in a funny way, but I do believe it sends a good message. And I did realize that all of them are on the east end of town, so if anyone on the west end, Stafford Road or Granville Road, feels slighted, let me know if there's a need for one, and we'll try to do our best. And the fire department recruits did a great job installing them, so thank you, and they're going to make fantastic firemen, I guarantee it. And the last thing is the comet, the seasonal comet, not the star and not the meteor, but the comet. I do have a picture of it lighted. It's in my front door. It doesn't have a tail on it yet. And unfortunately, Fort Barton does not have an electric connection. And I don't know, we have so many talented people in town, and maybe if we all pull together and make it happen, is that possible? That we can get electricity up there in some way or other that's not a noisy generator that might be stolen or whatever else? I don't know. Does anyone have any ideas? Please come forward, because the season is
The town
slowly
administrator. Jim?
upon us, or fastly.
We can certainly look into it, but it would have to be installed by the electric company,
Right.
because there's no way for us to get.
Yeah, to
As
get
a matter of
power,
fact,
yeah.
even the light on the flag that's on the pole, the light is on our roof up here,
Yeah.
shining up there,
Mm-hmm.
because of the fact that there's no electricity up there.
We'll look into it. There's no guarantee we'll have
Now, do
power
you
for this
think
Christmas, though.
is the electric company generous enough to do that for free for us? Oh, come on, think positive.
I lost. But I don't hold a lot of hope.
I don't know, I'll bake them some muffins.
Mrs. Pelletier?
Yes.
Just a quick question. You referenced a report. Did, Ms. Mello, is that a report that we'll get?
Report today, so I do have them.
Okay,
She
we'll get it,
spoke
yeah.
on them, but they will be in your
Yeah, I-
consent as correspondence received at your
I
next
have a
meeting.
few extras.
And just one other question. Have you received any kind of other response or assistance with
Okay,
your?
Mr. Gerlach, just a little point of reference. When it's the public portion, the council technically does not discuss it because it is not on our agenda. So we normally, we
Sure.
just take the information and then
Okay.
the next meeting, we can discuss it.
Thank you for that clarification.
And you see, if we put the comment on top of Fort Barton, anybody in this scenario, and Mr. Rick's pictures, would see it, and it would be such a great thing. And by the way, we do have Mr. Chincotti from that medical building gave us an offer to put it there, but I strongly believe it should be on public property and should be a unifying kind of symbol for the town, and I think we can make it happen, and instead of being negative about things, let's move forward. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Mrs. Pelletier. Joe Souza?
As the previous council, and I'm sure the new councilors are aware that the town was considering purchasing a pump-out boat. I just wanted to bring it to the council's attention that Quality Yacht received a DEM grant to put in a pump-out facility. That brings the number to 4 in the area. You got Quality Yacht, Brewer Marine, Pirate Cove, and Standish Boatyard that all have pump-out facilities. That's 4 right in that little harbor. I just wanted to point that out because I still don't see the need for a pump-out boat. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joe.
Okay. Acting as a Board of Licensing, Robert Marshall and James Machado, doing business as Newport Jewelry, 1540 Booger Marsh Road. Request approval of holiday license for new business. Mr. Marshall or Mr. Machado here? Okay. Any comments from the public? Okay, seeing none, is there a motion?
I move that as a Board of License, we grant to Robert A. Marshall and James Machado doing business as Newport Jewelry at 1540 Booger Marsh Road, a holiday license for a new business, subject to meeting all legal requirements.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Still acting as a Board of Licenses, Daniel Boland, Tiverton Tree Stand, 29 Stafford Road. Request approval of hawker's license, subject to meeting all legal requirements. Is Mr. Boland here?
I'm requesting a approval of a Christmas tree farm stand on 29 Stafford Road, Tiverton. I have the permit to make sales at retail here. That wasn't included
Okay.
in my original
And
report.
is that right at the corner of Booger Marsh and
Stafford, yes.
Stafford?
Yep.
Correct.
Okay. It'll just be for a month, starting Friday, November the 30th to December the 23rd. Sunday the 23rd.
And will that be in the open lot
Yes.
portion of it?
That was commercial lot.
Okay.
Okay. Any comments from the public? Seeing none, close the hearing. A motion regarding Tiverton Christmas tree stand?
I move that we approve as a Board of Licensing a request for a hawker's license to Daniel Boland, Tiverton Christmas Tree Stand, 29 Stafford Road, subject to meeting all legal requirements.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
Thanks very much.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll close the Board of Licensing. Now, non-advertised public hearings for license renewals, subject to meeting legal requirements, December 1st through 2012 to November 30th, 2013. I would just like to comment on one regarding Black Goose, doing business as Black Goose Cafe, 2160 Main Road. I've received several calls regarding a potential compliance issue regarding a fence. I've asked the town clerk to look into it, to see if they are in compliance, and if not, to send them notice to be.
Are you going to take these one group at a
No,
time? Does it have to be a list?
yeah, I just wanted to pull that one out.
Okay, then pull that one out.
Yeah, because that's the only one that I,
Victor.
that's on the victualling license renewals.
Okay.
Yeah, I just want to pull that one out so that we can at least go forward without having to go back into that one. And
Okay.
so that when we get to it, my suggestion is that we approve it subject to meeting all the legal requirements, and you will give us an update if they are in
Back to the
compliance.
next agenda.
Yeah.
Well, my question would be, do you want to approve it for less than the completed time? Do you want to approve it for like 60 days?
Yeah.
So the renewal, so that they're able to stay in business now, but it's still open to come back before you?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
You want to just take that now, as long as you pulled that out?
Yeah,
You wanna-
okay, then I will need a motion to take Black Goose separately and subject to a license renewal of 60 days pending information from the town clerk regarding whether or not they're in compliance.
So moved. That wording was a little confusing. Let me just clarify. Is this a motion to remove it or and approve it, or is that two separate things?
I think you've already removed it.
Okay.
So by the action of the chairman, so
Okay.
it's a motion to approve it, to grant the renewal.
For 60
but
days.
for 60 days.
Bringing this back at the next regularly scheduled meeting, which is
Or
in...
as soon as she has it, whether it be December or January. That's why we're saying 60
Okay.
days, so we're not caught up
just in
before
case.
Christmas and we're
Yep.
doing it. We'll be back before the 60 days.
Okay. 60 days would be March 1st,
February 1st.
because these are, oh, just sorry, it's for December 1st. All right, sorry.
So approximately. So we've got a meeting in December and 2 meetings in January.
January, so.
Okay.
To bring it to.
Yeah. Okay, we have a motion and a second, all in favor on that
Well,
particular
do we have any
Oh,
comments?
discussion, sorry, discussion.
Yeah,
No second.
Yeah. I
Right.
heard
Yes,
somebody-
Bill.
I second.
You'll do.
Ed?
Yes.
Yeah, my only concern is that I wasn't aware that this was going to become an issue. I haven't received any phone calls. And it just, I think there's some sort of unfairness in putting a list together that, for victualling licenses, that probably maybe 50, 75 here, and we identify one that we're going to treat differently, putting a 60-day limitation on the license, despite the fact we have absolutely no evidence at all at this point that they're not in compliance. I think we're all aware that Black Goose has had a long history, unfortunately. I wish this thing would simply go away. But what would prevent somebody from saying, well, I don't like the fence behind Classic Pizza? Okay, we put them on a 60-day string. I'm not so sure, I'm certainly looking to Mr. Tights for any guidance on this, but I'm not so sure simply on the basis of phone calls that we should be putting one applicant under a deadline that simply doesn't apply to the other applicants.
If
I mean,
I may-
do we have any reason to believe that there is a fence controversy? I'm sure there is a controversy. Whether it's in violation of some law, I don't know.
Mr. Tights?
Yes, Mr. President. And Mr. Lambert, that's why we have these, that's why we have these renewals. They're not advertised as far as notice to everyone, but that's why we have these public hearings every year. If somebody has a problem with a particular licensee, whether it's a tobacco license, victualling, liquor, whatever, we have, and this clearly, as noting the distinction that the president brought up at the beginning. This is a public hearing. People have the right, and in fact, on any of these other 50s, if anybody here wants to come up and raise an issue, they can. And you can either decide, okay, we're going to hear this right now, and we're going to hear what people are saying, and deal with it right now. It was suggested in this case that you continue it, because I don't know if the people for the Black Goose are even here. If they knew it was coming up, I certainly would want to give them the opportunity to be prepared. I don't know, I remember this off and on through the years and the various stuff, and I know there were conditions. I don't know exactly what the conditions are in the license until I and the clerk research it. So this seemed to be a way of fairness, providing, I wouldn't want to not renew it and deprive somebody of a license going into the holiday season just because someone made allegations.
Oh, I agree with
But I
you.
wouldn't want to ignore it either, so this seemed to be a good way. If others came up here on the same token, I would probably recommend the same thing. Unless someone was alleging that there was an immediate health and safety hazard, I would certainly recommend the same course for anybody where a question was raised.
Yeah, and the 60 days, I would think, gives us more than enough time to
Well,
look into the
I figure by the
situation.
time, for our next meeting, I'm sure we'll have whether or not,
I guess my only real concern, and maybe I'm overreacting, is that I would hate to put all of these victualling license applications under a cloud, where simply one phone call means that instead of getting your license and knowing you're safe for another year, you might be subject to some further hearings over the next 60 days.
Yeah.
But that said, I understand the circumstances of the Black Goose.
I mean, it's to allow, if anyone has a problem with an operation, a commercial operation, they get an opportunity at least once a year to come forward to the council and raise their concerns.
And I think we did this sort of back and forth at the time that they requested a liquor license, and there were certainly issues or concerns at the time that I'm not sure have been adequately resolved. And I just wanted to I'd like to make sure that they are, and if they're not, we figure out a way. I mean, ideally, it would just go away, but some amount of work is going to have to go into making sure that everybody is at least somewhat satisfied with the arrangement, and that includes the applicants, the neighbors, and ultimately this body as a licensing body. So
that's why I figure, at least let's get the opportunity to gather the information and then go forward without jeopardizing the holiday season for them.
Okay.
Give the effort to have it next.
We have a motion and a second regarding the Black Goose virtual licensing. All in favor?
So this was a public hearing?
Yes. Good.
Well, you just voted.
Well, no, but they voted to continue the public hearing, so you'll have the opportunity to speak
Well,
at.
my only point was the
public
building
hearing.
inspector standing here, if there was some sort of a violation filed saying that their fence wasn't in compliant, I would think we should hear from the building inspector and just put this to bed now, instead of dragging some poor working people in front of the council again.
Okay, we had a motion and a second, we voted for that. We'll go back now to the order, tobacco dealers license renewals. Being a public hearing, is there any question on them?
Mr. President, I just had a question. I didn't know if there was any complaints or any underage sale issues for any of these establishments worth noting? Nothing on file?
You would get all reports on it.
Okay, okay, thank you.
Okay. Anything else from the public? Okay, seeing none? Seeing none?
Oh, I would move that we grant tobacco dealers license renewals to, should I read all of these into the
I
record?
think you can,
or-
no, just set forth as an
As
item.
set forth in
C3.
November 26th agenda C3, tobacco dealers license, subject to meeting all legal requirements. For a term
Motion?
of 1 year.
We have a motion?
So moved.
I just made it.
He made the motion.
We need a
Oh, second.
We have a second?
You want to just, before you vote on, you want to just call if there is anybody who wants to speak?
Yeah,
on it?
anyone else wish to speak on tobacco dealers license renewals? Hearing none? Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, on victualling license renewals.
Yes,
Being
Mr. President, I have a
public
question on Susan's Restaurant. Yeah, that's just a name
Yes.
change?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So I just
Yeah,
want
it's
to clarify
doing-
that.
it's doing
that we're-
business as.
It's
but
Right, we're
it's-
doing
it's
as
still under-
Wally's, and that's Susan's.
Yeah, it's still under Susan's
Yeah. Okay.
Restaurant, yeah. Okay. Okay, anything from the public? Seeing none, do we have a motion regarding victualling license renewals?
I move that we, as a Board of Licensing, grant victualling license renewals for the listed establishments under C4 of the agenda, subject to meeting all legal requirements, save for Black Goose, doing business as Black Goose Cafe.
Second.
We have a motion and second. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, holiday license renewals. Okay, public hearing, any questions? Anything from the public?
Mr. President, I just, point of clarification, and Mr. Tights, I don't know, forgive me here, but can we just clarify the difference between a victualling license and a holiday license?
Yes.
For my benefit, please?
Sure, no problem. The victualling license is the license to serve food. And so that applies to essentially all the restaurant and food things. If you're preparing any sort of food on the premises, serving prepared food, then you need a victualling license. Holiday licenses are, we used to have Sunday sales license. If you wanted to be open on a Sunday, you needed a special license. The General Assembly got rid of that. And people, the blue laws are gone, people can open on Sundays. But so that cities and towns wouldn't be denied of the little bit of revenue that they got from the license fees, they created this thing of a holiday license. So if someone wants to open on one of the defined holidays, there's like 7 defined holidays throughout the year, you need a holiday license. So that's the difference between them.
Nothing from the public? Entertain a motion?
Move as a Board of Licensing, we grant holiday license renewals to the listed establishments under C5, subject to meeting all legal requirements for a term of 1 year.
Second.
We have a motion and second. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, acting as licensing board, street excavator license renewals. Excavator license, excuse me. Public?
Mr. President. Good evening, I'm Steve Bellucci, Director of Public Works, and the DPW does support all 9 of these applicants for renewal.
Good. Thank you. Anything from the public? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
As a Board of Licensing, I would move that we grant street excavator license renewals to the listed applicants under C6 of the agenda, subject to meeting all legal requirements for the term of 1 year.
Second.
We have a motion and second. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, flea market license renewal. Tom Corlett, Route 177 Flea Market, 1560 Bugamash Road. Anything from the public?
As a Board of Licensing, I move that we grant a flea market license renewal to Tom Willet's Route 177 Flea Market, subject to meeting all legal requirements.
Second.
Comment?
Comments?
Yeah. Gareth, I know we had some trouble with this last year, or some issue. That's been resolved, and there have been no more, the flea market on 177? We had some structural issues.
Yes, they are presently in compliance.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Mobile home park license renewals. Anything from the public?
As a Board of Licensing, I move that we grant mobile home park license renewals to the 4 listed mobile home parks on the agenda of November 26th, subject to meeting all legal requirements for a term of 1 year.
Second.
We have a motion and second. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, petroleum storage license renewals. Anything from the public?
This is riveting stuff, guys. Come on.
There you go.
I move as a Board of Licensing, we grant renewal of licenses, for the storage
Petroleum storage.
the storage of petroleum to the listed establishments, subject to meeting all legal requirements for the term of 1 year.
Second.
We have a motion and second. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Antique license renewal. Nancy Walker doing business as Artisan Antiques, 2423 Main Road.
As a Board of Licensing, I move that we approve the antique license renewal for Nancy Walker doing business as Artisan Antiques for the term of 1 year, subject to meeting all legal requirements.
Second.
We have a motion and second. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Quarry license renewal, Charles Coelho, CMC Family Limited Partnership, 1764 Crandall Road. Anything from the public?
Mr. President, I have just a couple questions here. Just a point of clarification. Is there an actual quarry at this address?
No.
Or
Yes, there is. There is a small operation. It's not a very intensive operation, but there is. And they have complied with the requirements. Commonwealth engineers, the town engineers established a bond amount for the restoration of the property, and they have posted the bond. They have it here. They have to provide a renewal of that
Sure.
as well.
Okay, thank you.
All right, we have a motion.
Acting as a Board of Licensing, I make a motion that we approve the quarry license renewal for Charles Coelho, CMC Family Limited Partnership, subject to meeting all legal requirements.
Second.
We have a motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And number 12, I will recuse myself.
Number 12, manufactured home elderly community license renewal. Open it up for public comment.
At this time, there are no outstanding building or zoning issues with that license.
And we also have a letter from the planning board indicating same. So as a Board of Licensing, I move that we grant a manufactured home elderly community license renewal to Country View Estates LLC, subject to meeting all legal requirements.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
We have nothing under appointments and resignations, or unfinished business, or financial business. New business. Pecassack Cemetery Commission requests council approval of amendments to cemetery rules and regulations.
Mr. President, if I might address this? This was a request that came to me from the Cemetery Commission. They were concerned, there was a particular situation which arose where they wanted to deviate very slightly from what their allowable requirements were, but their regulations, as they're currently enforced, do not allow for any variance at all. The monument base is not able to exceed 3 feet 1 feet. It can't be 3 foot 1 inch. This happens to be the proposed one that they want to consider as 4 feet, but they have no authority whatsoever to grant any of it. Looking at some of the other cemetery commission regulations around the state, and consistent with due process, there are 2 amendments that these were presented to the Cemetery Commission. They were amended at their meeting, and I've presented them for you here at this point. Number 6 the first sentence, plans for all monuments shall be submitted in advance to the superintendent, is something that they require now anyway. We're just adding that to the requirements in writing, and then that the commission shall have the authority to reject any design or plan if it's unsuited or not in conformity. And then in number 11, we've added an opportunity for them to basically provide a waiver if there's some unnecessary hardship. It'll have to be done at a public hearing with at least 7 days' notice. The applicant has to bear the expense of that public hearing. So there's no waiver that's been given. If you in fact approve this change to their rules, they will then schedule that public hearing for the proposal. But this is just to give them that ability so that they can waive it in certain circumstances of hardship.
Any questions from the council?
Yeah, I just have a quick question. This is your language, Andy, or this is?
This is a combination of my language and some language that was added by the commission.
Okay. The phraseology that I'm sort of focused on is that the authority shall have the commission shall have the authority to reject any plan or design, blah, blah, blah,
Right.
in the opinion of the commission on account of size, design, inscription, kind, or quality of stone is unsuited. Is that a little too loosey-goosey? I mean, I can understand size, quality of stone, but inscription and design, I'm a little worried, you know, I mean, what authority do they, I mean, I just,
Well,
explain to me why that's important, why a design or an inscription on a burial monument is particularly something that they have to come down on one way or the other. I just may not be familiar enough with it.
Well, I think I regard it as different than a lot of other circumstances where we don't look at all at content, okay? We don't affect First Amendment rights. But this isn't a public forum that we're providing for people to put stuff on their tombstone. We sell them the plot.
Right.
And as part of that property interest in the burial, we provide, certain rules. And I think that there's an obligation to all of the other people who are buying the plots and assuming that their relatives and loved ones and themselves are going to be there for eternity. They want a certain sense of decorum that would be there. So I do think there's that desire to have some response. And I will say I added it in response to, if we're going to give them the right to vary something, I want them to have the ability to say no as well. I don't want people to be able to come and say, oh, you must put what I want. I want a swastika on my tombstone. You have to give it to me. I think they should, and I think since it's a separate property interest, they do have the right to say no.
So is this maybe the first step in perhaps creating some document of acceptable something? I worry that something that someone thinks is innocuous, others don't believe to be so, and then it's prohibitive. And I don't know if that's necessarily a valid concern or not. I just worry about.
Well, I will just say, I think the cemetery rules and regulations need to be rewritten just to clarify them. They're a hodgepodge of additions over the years, and probably should have a complete rewrite. But I don't know that I would go to, I like the idea of having a design review standard for buildings in the industrial park. I don't really want to be limiting people in the tombstone either, for the very reasons that you give. And you appoint a commission, there's 5 members of the commission, I think?
Yes.
So it's not like you're putting it all in one person's hands.
And the applicant could appeal and say,
Right,
hey,
right, and that's right. I mean, they haven't had any problems to date.
Okay.
And basically, the superintendent has the ability to approve anything, and it's only if there's something that's going to be said no, then it's got to be the entire or majority of the 5-member commission is going to say no.
Okay,
So that seemed to me to be protection enough.
I'm happy. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I move that we approve the amendments to the Cassett Hill Cemetery Rules and Regulations, specifically the changes to item 6 and the addition of item 11 as identified in agenda item G1.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Town Clerk. Citizens' complaint on charter violation, Section 1218, use of town resources to influence a voting contest.
Yes, I've placed this on the agenda. I have not previously spoken to any councilors or given out any of this before a response was given to Mrs. Cook, nor have I to date discussed any with any of the councilors. But I felt it was important that the council did receive the complaint and did receive at least what I interpret in my decision on this, which was solely my decision. I've given you my response, and that pretty well spells out the steps that were taken. I did receive a complaint from Mrs. Cook on, I believe it was on the
October 25th.
29th, right, and she brought it to my office. It was clocked in. On the Monday, school was not in session due to Hurricane Sandy, and on the Tuesday, it was not in session. By the Wednesday morning at 9:20, as soon as the schools could get in order, I went to Fort Barton School. I spoke with the secretary that is named in the complaint. I asked her if she had any pins, and this relates to that. She said she had one on her desk, and she had to look under the papers, and she did hand me one. I asked her if she realized that this was a political action group, and she should not be having this as an employee of the town. It violates the charter. Personally, I don't think she really realized that's what it was, and I didn't get that sense from her. I spoke to the principal there, and even though the complaint did not say it, Mrs. Cook had said she thought it was in other schools. I immediately went from that school. I spoke to the principal there. I immediately went to Pecasset School, spoke to the secretary there, spoke to the principal there. At that time, I also spoke to Superintendent Rearick, who happened to call the principal there, was getting around that I was going around, I guess. And he made it clear to me that they have a policy and that he was not aware of any of this, and he was going to notify all his administration. He sent me a copy of an email that was sent out to his administration, and within minutes of talking to me, he had sent that out, and there was some response that they did not have any. At that point, I went no further. A good part of this complaint, though, it has to do with what the clerk's responsibility in determining what a substantial, sufficiently set forth charter violation is. With that, I had discussed with the town solicitor. We went over in depth, thinking, if in fact every charter complaint that comes my way is supposed to immediately go on to the council's agenda, then you would not have it spelled out like this. Why put the clerk in there? You would simply say, it can be submitted to the clerk for the next council agenda. That's not what we interpret this section to read for enforcement. And the same as I have done for the other charter violation that has come my way as clerk, I first research it. I will not take hearsay. I go to the parties. I did feel that if in fact there were any political pins out on desks, it was more important, so closely to the election, that they be removed. And the one pin that was handed to me, the secretary actually threw it immediately into the trash. I saw no others, and there were no others for me to see. At that point, I kind of concluded there wasn't much. I did, due to the time of the election, I went a couple of extra weeks before I responded back to Mrs. Cook. No one else ever came forward with anything. Now, this has been in the newspapers. I'm sure it was on Patch. I don't read, but I'm sure it was on Patch. People have told me. I never got anything else to the complaint, so I drew that conclusion, and as you can see on my response, I did dismiss it as, I didn't feel that it was, even though I did not take it lightly, and I was very involved when that section was added to the charter. The people voted it in, and we have to abide by it. It's not something to take lightly. But I didn't feel that a pin, or 3 pins at the beginning, which the complaint was, and I have no reason to doubt that there were 3 pins at the beginning. I didn't see it rise to the same level, and I didn't see it really substantial enough to have the council go into a full investigation, bringing in witnesses, or go to municipal court or any other place. So that's my decision, and I felt the council should at least have it. I understand Mrs. Cook doesn't agree with me, but I wanted it out there, and the public should realize that there was a charter complaint and the reason and what the decision was.
Mr. Tights?
Do you have anything?
Yeah, as indicated, I did discuss this with the clerk. It is a little, on its face, it's a little ambiguous in the charter, section 1211. It talks about sufficiently set forth is just specifying, what the section of the charter is, the nature and the person. But yet the rest of it contradicts that, as Nancy has said. Why would there be an investigation and determination and so forth if it wasn't meant to determine if it was sufficient to bring before? If there wasn't more than just, does it have it? If it was going to be that, then it would be sworn out, complaint goes to the council automatically. I kind of look at this as, and I don't want to be too lawyer-like here, but it's kind of like the criminal thing. The clerk in the first instance is like the policeman or the attorney general. Someone brings a complaint, they're looking to see, okay, do we arrest this person or whatnot? The second step, if they think, well, we got some probable cause here, we submit it to the grand jury. And you, the town council, are that grand jury that looks to see, well, is there sufficient finding, should it go forward to the court, which in this case is our municipal court. So I think that under that mechanism and under the language, the clerk does have the power to dismiss a complaint as she's indicating.
Yeah, Mr. President?
Yes.
I did have, if I can follow up on that legal question, as I read the provision on page 32, it indicates that if the town clerk fails to find that the charges are sufficiently set forth, he or she shall notify the complainant in writing, providing the reasons for dismissal. But it also indicates, and I'm quoting, if the town clerk determines that the charges are sufficiently set forth, he or she shall schedule a public hearing before the town council, acting in its capacity as the Charter Monitoring and Complaint Review Board. As I read that, we have no authority as a town council to override the preliminary decision by the town clerk, who's acting as a totally independent elected official in this town and acting in her capacity as a town clerk. But I'd appreciate your interpretation of that section, but at least as I interpret it, at this point, Mrs. Mello having submitted the reasons for her dismissal, there's no basis on which this town council can on its own independently assume any jurisdiction of this issue. Is that how you would interpret it?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, and Mr. Levin, I'm in agreement. I had read that also and thought she has done her due diligence, and if she deemed that there was sufficient evidence to go forward, then it would come to us. But seeing that she didn't deem any, so. Mrs. Cook?
Okay. All right, since I haven't had a chance apparently to have a hearing, so that prevents me from having a chance to present my evidence or ask for people to present evidence. I had wanted to know what gave the town clerk authorization to conduct an investigation. And you're showing where it's written about investigation. I don't see anything about investigation in any of the wording. It just says sufficiently set forth, which you said, Mr. Tace, was ambiguous. I want to know what the standard is. Who decides what the standard is of this sufficiently set forth? You know, she goes to 2 schools and talks to one person, and, you know, the thing is that she's allowed to present her case, and yet I'm not allowed to present mine. And I'm not getting any due process.
Anything else, Mrs. Cook?
I think that, says action by the town, and it says 1, 2, 3. Okay. One of them is the municipal court shall have jurisdiction to determine violations of this charter. The town ordinances and rules or regulations adopted under authority hereof, and to enter appropriate orders, decrees, or judgments with respect to such violations. I think because I'm not being given due process for a hearing, and they're just summarily being dismissed, my right to just be silenced is not very democratic.
Mrs. Cook, again, I understand your frustration, but upon Mrs. Mello's looking into the allegations, finding that it didn't rise to the level of being a charter violation. And as the town solicitor stated,
But I haven't been allowed to
she has done her portion, so that means she did not find that it rose to the level of being a charter violation, so therefore it is dismissed. This isn't a trial, it's not a hearing.
Well,
Yeah, Mr. Tights?
Yeah, I just...
it's a good thing we don't do that in court, because, I mean, you
You're not,
have a
we do
complaint.
that in court. Basically,
have a
yes,
hearing.
Mrs. Cook, we don't. If you complain about someone, okay? If you go to the police and complain about someone, that they're doing something, and the police investigate, and the police say, nope, we're not doing anything, you don't get a hearing at that point. You don't go to court as the complainant. It's someone who's accused who's entitled to the due process in the hearing. So you don't, in fact, even in court, if you complain to the police or the district attorney, the Attorney General in Rhode Island, you don't have that, and it's no different here. And I want to go further on this. There's two things. It's not being summarily dismissed, and that's, I think, why I feel comfortable that we have a very detailed report of what the clerk did, the action she took. If the clerk just wrote you a 2-sentence letter saying, I didn't find anything wrong, your complaint is dismissed, I would agree. That would be summarily dismissed, and she wasn't following her duty to determine whether it was sufficient or not. But she did give you all the facts and explanations, as she did here publicly, of what she did. And finally, I would say that if you have some other evidence, if you have other evidence that this was a widespread practice going on in all other different, you're saying you didn't get to put your evidence. If you have evidence that this was a widespread practice going on in all the other schools, then I think you have the right to refile it. You can refile it with further evidence. Just again, in the criminal thing, if you complained about someone and said, well, we don't have enough evidence, if you got some evidence of that, which would, I think, rise to a charter violation, if you could show that it was a widespread practice and someone had planned it, then by all means, refile it with that new evidence. The clerk took the information you gave her and acted as fast as she could, and she didn't summarily dismiss it.
Well, it may be that the employee had the 3 buttons there, but it is a locked, and it has not been answered as to how they got there. No one wants to speak. How did they get there? It is a locked, secured area, and no one seems to know how something got there. Now,
Well, I suggest you take that up with the superintendent of schools about the security then.
well, he's also responsible for this violation because he doesn't put out anything until after the fact. You know, he's just as responsible for anything that's going on in the schools. And I also feel that since no one lifted an eyebrow, that this is a long-standing practice because no one thought the better of it. It's just a common practice, I'm thinking.
Okay, Mrs. Cook, I respect the way you feel, but unfortunately, it has been discussed. If you have further evidence, I suggest you refile.
Justin Katz, Harbor Terrace. As a resident of Tiverton, I'd like to clarify the charter so I'll know in the future. Where in the section about what it defines sufficiently set forth does it say anything about submitting evidence? Am I missing a clause in my copy? It says sufficiently set forth shall specify the section of charter violated, the nature of the violation, and the people involved. That doesn't sound like evidence to me.
The nature of the violation. And the nature of the violation presented to the clerk was one person with 3 buttons. That was the nature of the violation, okay? There was nothing submitted beyond that. But if it were, then that would be a further, as I said, it could be refiled. I'm responding specifically to Mrs. Cook's comment that she was not allowed to present evidence.
Well, I'm asking a different question here. I'm asking, it seems very far from ambiguous to me that the resident puts forth the complaint with these 3 items specified, fills out the form, so to speak. The clerk determines that they are filled out, those 3 boxes filled out deliberately, and if they are, schedules a hearing. There's no mention of investigations or evidence or language about rising to the level. Nowhere in here do I see this giving the clerk that duty.
I think we already explained our rationale on that.
Well, to further on that then, I would like to suggest that the clerk's report is incomplete. On November 5th, having read in the patch.com about this issue, I emailed to let her know that another parent had come to me about pins at Ranger, and I also mentioned that a former counselor had video of picking up 2 of the 3 pins that the clerk had at Fort Barton. So the clerk was well aware of that. There was no mention in the report, and there was no mention of going to Ranger. I'm sure with election season, it was a very busy time, but I was kind of surprised to hear that there was no follow-up on these issues, especially if there's no hearing. I mean, my understanding of the process is that there would be a hearing at which people could come forward and discuss it, and, you know, in a small community, get this stuff out in the air. But this doesn't seem to be happening here, and it does seem to me to be a pretty egregious violation of due process.
Mr. President. Mr. Katz, you did email me on my personal email at home, not officially through my town clerk or through here.
But you did
However, I
replied on your
respect that you
town
did,
email.
and you mentioned a person's name who I have contact with constantly, but I do not do things on hearsay. I went to the people. That person never came forward to me and said, look, I have a video of this. So I don't have it in my report because I don't have that person who I speak with come forward. I have informed Mrs. Cook if she had anything else. She just got some information recently, she said. They're saying to her, then refile with that information if you have it. I didn't, not firsthand. And even though, Mr. Katz, you sent me that on my personal email, I do appreciate it, but I don't take it on hearsay. I do not read the patch. And that's not where I get my information to perform my
Oh,
duties.
no, this was my personal testimony that people had
Oh, I
spoken to
know,
me.
but I mean, I don't, that's not where I take my requirements for my duties here. I did it as quickly as I could and tried to get it. Why did I go to Pecasset? Because on that day, I was going to make my rounds through all the schools. I was doing as quickly, about 20 minutes after the schools opened, that I could. By the time I got to Pecasset School, I didn't speak to one person and willy-nilly put this away. I don't take this lightly. I spoke to 5 people. I spoke to both principals, I spoke to both secretaries, and I spoke to the superintendent. At that point, the superintendent was going to send out the message. So I never knew anything or heard anything other than Mrs. Cook recently saying, oh, the middle school, or the this, or the that. I didn't have that information. At that time, I went as quickly as I could. I'm not even sure if your email to me was after that time or not. I can't remember.
It was on November 5th, and you replied...
Right, so it would have been after I went to the schools.
Yeah, and you replied from nmello at Town of Tiverton, Rhode Island, ri.com on November 5th. But still, your report was filed several weeks later, so it, I mean, if somebody does something illegal, the fact that they then stop doing it doesn't mean that they didn't violate the law. It's a similar principle here.
No, it's not that they didn't. Those pins did not belong on that secretary's desk. And I
So there
state
clearly
that.
was a violation
It's
then.
just that because there was one pin there, I don't think it rises to the level of the council doing a full investigation with witnesses and this, that, and the other. That's my opinion, and that's why I dismissed that in truth, and never spoke to one council person about it. That's just my opinion. And Mrs. Cook and I have had several conversations. This information has not come forward to her apparently till later on, and she told me the other day that she just recently got some information. I made sure she got my response before any counselor saw anything to do with any of this. So the solicitor has told her if she wants to refile, if you have people that will come forward, but you really should have the people come forward. And the person you're talking about, Mr. Katz, really, I speak to, you know, whenever, and he could have easily come forward to me. They never did. No one else ever came forward, so the only complaint I had was not that, but of Mrs. Cook going in and seeing the pins, the 3 pins. That's the only thing on that complaint.
Well, I want to specify, the pins to me are a pretty minor issue. What concerns me most is that the sanctity of the charter, and it seems it's not, if it's being clearly followed, then it's very far from clearly written. And I think this definitely needs legal clarification, because
Okay, Mr. Katz, I appreciate your comments, but I believe our solicitor has given his opinion regarding that, and Mrs. Mello has done her due diligence, so I thank you.
May I speak?
Yes.
Thank you. I'm not going to speak about this issue in case it goes forward. I could compromise it. I know I won't do that. I can just clearly state that in 1974, Tiverton Public Schools passed policy 953, which says that we cannot do anything about elections, not in the school grounds, not in the schools. It was revisited in 1993, passed in 1974. That's how long that's been in standing. We don't violate those rules. We take them seriously. We take the charter seriously. We take the Constitution seriously. And Mrs. Shabbat, you mailed me this after we interviewed you for the Alliance. We've talked many times about 1218. Many times. I've been for you since it was passed. And we know the First Amendment, and we'll talk about that further if this goes further, and I won't compromise it anymore.
Yeah, thank you, Mrs. Black. Any further discussion on this?
I just have one question for the town clerk. Since we could be setting a precedence here, I would like to know if you could cite any other examples on other complaints that were dismissed by the town clerk and not presented to the council.
Well, I can't speak for the prior town clerk, but I've been town clerk for 8 years, and yes, I have had charter violations, and the last one I was presenting to the council for a hearing, and that was the one on the treasurer that had come into my office. We had met with the solicitor. He had presented evidence that he was not an elector of Tiverton, and I felt that did warrant the council investigating further into it. But I again did the preliminary. If this charter amendment, to me, if it just means bring everything to the council, then you don't need to put the stuff in about the clerk. I put everything that comes to the council agenda to the council. I think that one I did bring forward, and I think there was one other one that I had. It didn't actually reach the council, but it was coming to the council. I had informed the council that it was coming. We were going to schedule a hearing, but I believe the complaint was from a Mr. Burke, and he withdrew it at the time when the treasurer resigned. And I think there was one other back years. I can't even remember what it was on, but I could certainly check. But have I ever presented one for the council? Yes, that one was coming. It was withdrawn due to circumstances.
Right, but I'm more interested in the ones that...
From the prior clerk?
That were dismissed by the clerk and not presented to the town council.
Well, those are the only ones I personally had information on, but I do know that the prior clerk, Mr. Costa, had several of them. In fact, Mrs. Cook was in today, and we were looking up some, and one did make it to municipal court. I don't know if they were dismissed. I can go back and research them, and I'll let you know.
I just want to know if there has been any case where a complaint has been dismissed by the town clerk and has not been presented to the town council. I think that's important, because this sets a precedent that, based upon seeing that there was a violation and that it didn't rise to a level that was needed to bring to the council, that this complaint was dismissed. So I think it's critical that we understand that. Is this setting a precedent? Or have there been other cases in the past where the town clerk has dismissed a charter complaint?
When was this
I
amendment
think
made?
there were, but I will check.
Thank you.
Pretty sure there were. I'll check.
Mr. President, I really did not want to belabor this point, but I did want to make one other important, I think important item, and maybe I'm just being a little too legalese. I noticed a number of the people speaking on this issue have been referring to an employee of the school. There is a distinction made between employees and the school department acting as a corporate entity. And it's important, I think, to note that in trying to put together, making an assessment as to whether facts are sufficiently set forth, the complaint in this case is specifically directed not to an employee. It's directed to, quote, the school department. And it's directed to the school department under Section 1218 as knowingly being in violation of that section. I think Mrs. Mello did more than was really required under this complaint. There is absolutely nothing to suggest that the school department as a corporate entity knowingly violated Section 1218. But I just want to make that distinction because a couple of people have been referring to an employee. The complaint is specifically directed to a corporate entity, the school department.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Lambert. Any further discussion? Anything on, moving on, Council Lambert, request status report from Town Administrator regarding Department Head unionization petition. Mr. Gonzalo?
Okay, we did receive a decision. The decision was in favor of the town, and we are awaiting a period of appeal period. That's the word I'm trying to think of, right. Appeal period. And that appeal period should come to an end either December 7th or December 10th. And then we will move forward from there.
Okay, good. Then we'll move forward with working on contracts.
Yes, we will be.
Okay. And you'll keep us abreast?
Keep you abreast, and we will, I will show you the model contract beforehand, in case the council desires to change anything or before we move forward.
Okay. Anything else, Mr. Lambert?
No, that's it. Fine, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Councilor Gerlach and Councilors Pelletier, review and reassignment of town council liaisons to town boards and commissions, and a listing of all board and commission vacancies.
I have the next one. Do you want to?
Yeah, it doesn't matter who talks about it. This is fairly straightforward. I guess Bill and I simultaneously submitted, actually you 2 days in advance of me, requests to have a list of all of our liaison positions and seats on any boards, like the Newport Chamber Board. I don't think there are any others that are outside of this municipality. For outgoing councilors who have vacated their seats and potentially people who are looking to trade, I don't know. This is going to turn into a baseball fantasy league, but
Is this the preseason
yeah,
trades here?
I shouldn't even make sports comments because I don't know anything about them, but so we have a list in this packet of council volunteers as liaisons. There's also, so Newport, we do have one that's not on here. It's the Newport Chamber of Commerce. I'm sorry, Board of something. So it's a board where there's a seat from each municipality, and it's typically a city or town councilor. I don't know, it's called the Board of, I think it's just called the Newport Chamber County Board.
Chamber of Commerce.
Yeah, it's the Board of.
The Board of Directors.
Directors, there we go.
Of the Chamber of
Jeez.
Commerce, yes.
Yeah, so it's.
They include the municipal representatives.
And that was, our representative was Councilor Nelson, and now we need to fill that with someone else. The Newport County Convention and Visitors Bureau shouldn't be a blank on this list, because that's Ms. Pelletier.
Yeah.
Yeah, that used to be Billy's seat. And the other thing is, too, the Library Construction Coordination Committee, I am also a co-liaison, was with Rob Coulter. So we need to fill one other seat there. So, I don't know, Bill, if you had an idea of, because I think you mentioned reassignments, or if anybody was, looking to come off of one, go on another, et cetera, et cetera. I don't know how you want to deal with this. It's a.
I mean, do we want to fill them tonight? Is that too laborious a process?
No, I don't think it's laborious at all.
Because actually, what I was going to suggest, of the openings that we have first.
Sure.
There are any current members of the council who are interested in serving on those particular committees that are open.
I think that's reasonable, and then, because it did shake out somewhat that there was a lot of, sort of, some of us picked up some of the, the loose ends, to just make sure we had everybody covered. So I'm on this list a lot, just because.
Because you're a sports aficionado.
Because I don't watch sports, and I have plenty of time to attend meetings. Just because we didn't want, say, the Building Code of Appeals not have anybody on it, so we said, we'll just split the difference. I think Rob and I split the difference on any vacancies. So I'm happy to just go down the list if you're interested in being the liaison, raise your hand or shout or whatever. Is that a fairly egalitarian way of doing things?
Yeah. Before you do that, can I just suggest, I think that with the appointment to the Newport County Chamber of Commerce, since that wasn't listed here, I think we need to defer that to the next meeting,
Yeah,
because it wasn't on the agenda.
It might even be wise to send them a notice saying the counselor who had, who was our rep, is no longer on the council, and we will be sending you a name in short order. Jody, you should probably know that already.
Someone appointed to it, I'll send them notice.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'll send each board that, this is your new liaison.
Right, and just add it to our next agenda.
Yes.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for that.
Okay.
So, should I just take the lead on this?
Yeah,
or-
because I'm
Okay.
just started at the top.
Yeah, so we've got Budget Committee as an opening.
I would be more than happy to go
Okay.
on the Budget Committee.
And we can have more than one, by the way, but.
Just a short question. Some of the ones that are already filled, would it be feasible that some of you are still here, maybe want to change positions
Yeah, I
as well?
think once we do the vacancies, we'll come back to
Okay.
to those perhaps. that-
Ed, I'll do that with you, too, so that.
Conservation Commission,
I'll take that.
that was Bill?
But, if it's easier, I'll take that
Take 'em all.
Fogland Beach
Fogland Beach,
and open space, kind of given my
Open space.
environmental background.
okay. Harbor and Coastal, I go to Harbor and Coastal, it's a longer name than that, but it's Harbor Coastal Management Resource, whatever it is. I go to those meetings anyway, so I'm happy to take that one and possibly give up another one. And we've got, the Library Construction Coordination Committee requires 2.
I'll do that with you.
Okay. Denise. The new Secaunet Bridge Advisory Committee.
Can we clarify what that is?
Yeah, what is that?
That was.
It's a committee that was set up to help the town deal with DOT and the construction of the new bridge, including stakeholders and town officials, and included town council representatives. I'm not sure if it's still needed that long. It probably also has a sunset provision at some point. I'm not sure what the provision
Yeah.
is for that.
Does it meet?
Does that roll into the tolls issue as well? or-
It hasn't hasn't of yet.
I think-
I don't think it's met in a long time. I think it was mainly prior to the construction issues, it was mostly being dealt with.
We'd have to look at the sort of resolution that established them to determine if they have a very specific task, because they're sort of an ad hoc committee, are they not?
Yes,
yeah,
they
I
were created, I mean,
think-
DOT wanted someone, what DOT wanted to be
Frank
able to
proposed
have a
it.
group that they could talk to, so the town set that up.
Yeah, I think that had to do with design and construction.
Yeah, and traffic patterns.
Traffic patterns. I don't think it had
complaints
anything
and
to do with,
And
at the
landscaping.
time when no tolls were planned.
Lack thereof.
I'll look at the resolution that
Yeah.
enabled it, and then if it's not necessary, we'll put it on the next meeting so that you can
Okay.
abolish that board.
Yeah, so we'll put it on the next.
And then we've got the police pension board. This is a particularly important one.
Yes.
We could do, can we have as many, sort of as we'd like? One or
there's
two?
only
or-
one.
Only one? Okay.
Unless you formed a new.
I could take police
What is
pension.
that in- you're going to do?
Okay.
Who's going to,
Jan, it's
Jim
by
Jim
resolution.
Cecil was the rep
Right,
now.
right.
Yeah.
Yes,
I might caution whoever, Jim or, this board generally meets during the day because it often has outside people, like up until recently, Bank of America people come in. We have lawyers come in. We have, our compensation planning come in. And these people come in quarterly
I was going to say,
during
for
the
this
day.
one, Stonebridge.
That's once quarterly?
Stay on the landfill.
Yeah.
And it's usually, traditionally, it's been 10 a.m.
Yeah, that shouldn't be a problem. Once quarterly shouldn't be a problem.
Okay.
Okay, good. Because that's a particularly important, I don't want to, demean anyone on the other
Are you
boards
still,
and commissions.
you
but-
still in, Jim?
Yes.
Okay.
Jim Aruda.
And then the tree commission. Maybe the most exciting commission we have. We have a lot of trees in town.
I can round out the,
Okay.
The environmental piece.
the hand here.
Actually, there's the Stonebridge Committee, and I'll take that.
This-
Oh,
not
yeah.
just-
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
And what is that?
There you go.
What-
Excellent.
Can someone just clarify what that one?
Stonebridge
Okay.
Committee,
Project.
Okay.
yeah.
I think we'd have more than one in that, right, Jim?
No,
On
there's
Stonebridge?
only one.
Only one?
If it would be
Jim.
helpful, I can get you a copy of the enabling resolutions that form these so that you can see what type of members are on each board. Do you want that?
Are they on the website? I should probably know that. but-
Probably not, but they're in our board and commission books.
Okay.
so we'll check.
I'd like a copy of that, too.
Sure, submit it to everyone.
So is there, for anybody, I suppose, is there any appointment or position as a liaison that you are interested in that is already filled? There's no prohibition to us having more than one on most of these. So certainly that's a possibility as well, to double up. But if there's anything that anyone wants, go ahead and shout it out, and we can talk about it.
I'm interested in the liaison for the school committee,
You want somebody to...
Yeah. Yeah, we had to eventually.
which is currently held by Mr. Roderick.
I'm sorry, excuse me?
That's what we were just
There
discussing.
were
okay.
two, I think there were two,
Yeah,
so
Mr.
I think,
Mr. Nelson was on the school committee.
I think there's no reason there can't be two
Yeah, we
still.
did have to, it was Nelson,
Yeah.
Mr. Nelson and myself.
Okay, so Jim.
So I'd be interested in
So-
doing that.
Yep, okay,
And you still want to do it?
yeah. Okay.
Anybody else?
I want to be off the street committee.
No.
What is the street
You're doing
committee, Joe?
important work. You're doing
Joan?
important work.
Actually, I don't know if there's enabling legislation on that particular committee.
Joan, you
So
are,
until that's verified, I'm off the street committee.
Joan, you are an expert on our streets.
I want to be off it, Joe.
I guess it would be useless to ask to get off the recycling landfill committee.
No, absolutely not, Mr. Lambert.
That's another one, huh?
I will say some of these boards and commissions are really appreciative of their liaisons. You know.
Yeah, and so
They comment on it.
And if this helps anybody, this isn't a requirement that you attend their meeting every month or every 2 months, whenever they meet. We envisioned it when we started talking about this as a point person on the council to have board and commissions they could go to somebody if they had a question, or someone to drop by at their meeting once in a while and sit in the back and observe. And, I know the meetings that I've gone to, it's nice to listen to what they're doing, and it's also nice to sometimes just say, oh, well, by the way, last night at the council, we spoke about X, Y, Z, and that's of interest to you. And it helps the conversation, I think, a great deal. But it certainly doesn't require you to be sleeping at the town hall or the community center around Judson Street. I wouldn't advise that anyway, but yeah, not in the rain. So it's not as
daunting as
daunting. You don't sit at the table. You just sit in the back or stand or whatever.
That's helpful context.
Yeah.
Ms. Mello, will you update this and resend it out to everyone?
I'll update it, I'll inform the boards and commissions, and I'll email you out the new update.
You want it again?
Thank you.
I'll take one, Brett.
No, I'm fine.
Because I only have 2.
Oh, well, if you like something.
Mr. Roderick, can I request that this new listing be posted on the town website so that when people are wondering what's going on with a certain thing, or they have a question, they know who is the liaison to contact?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Roger, I would respectfully suggest that if you do have a specific question with what's going
go to the
on
board.
with the board, go to the chair of the board or the secretary of the board rather than going to the liaison. Because if you went to me asking about the tax exemption review process, I'm going to send you to the tax exemption review board chairman. So it might be just an easier way to. It's good to have, I think, and maybe CC or follow up with, but. Certainly, the person at the head of the table is the guy you want to talk to. So
Is that listed on the town website?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, all the boards.
I think I have with certain ones found it. I didn't know if that was standard on all of them.
Yeah, I think they're all listed on the town, yeah.
And with any luck,
And their
very
chairs.
shortly, we'll have a new
Yeah.
website.
I mean, the purpose of liaison basically is for the council themselves to be able
Right.
to gather information. So we're not the expert by any stretch of the imagination of the commissions that we're going to be liaisons to. It's really just that we're a little more informed.
All right, thank you.
If you have a problem, Roger, you can contact me.
So do you not want that on the website? Don't put the liaisons on the website. You don't have to
No,
contact you.
no, don't put it on there.
Nancy, I'm going to take recreation from Brett.
Oh, that's a good one for you. That's a good one. We need help on that.
Okay. Any other changes, jumping ship?
Yeah, I have a question for Economic Development Committee. Brett, you're already on that, and you're also on Economic Community Growth Working Group. Is this something?
It's not, well, those aren't, Ed and I aren't liaisons, we're technically the co-chairs of that, so.
That's a separate
All right.
group.
That'll actually be up in March, will be up for an election of chairman, so.
So there's no need to fill that now, or to change?
Yep.
I mean, certainly, the Economic Development Commission is a very important group in town, and the more people who are involved in that, the better. So I see no prohibition to doubling up, but,
But worth doing then, maybe putting 2 liaisons for that, or adding more people to that?
I think that's fine.
Yeah.
You can always attend meetings on
Yeah.
economic development.
And you can always attend meetings and not be the liaison. It's, you know,
Okay.
I will tell you how many times people have said, ooh, it's nice to see
Let's
a
try to build a
counselor
resume.
here.
Yeah.
People appreciate it that are on the boards and commissions.
Good, all right, so.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Is that to your liking,
That was fantastic.
Councilor Gurley? We also have a list of vacancies as of November 19th. And I will just read them for anyone who's interested.
They have been advertised.
And these
they
have been
until
advertised quite a bit.
December 15th.
You've got until December 15th if you'd like to apply or send your CV to the clerk's office. We've got the Arts Committee, the Building Code of, I'm sorry, we have 1 vacancy on the Arts Committee. The Building Code of Appeals is one that we have a requirement, you need to be a contractor. The Comprehensive Plan Advisory Committee, the Conservation Commission has a single vacancy. The Economic Development Commission has a single vacancy. The Harbor Commission has 2 vacancies. The Juvenile Hearing Board has 1 alternate vacancy. Open Space Commission has 1 vacancy. The Recreation Commission has 1 vacancy. Recycling/Landfill Committee has 2 vacancies. The Secaucus Bridge Advisory Committee has 2 vacancies. Is that the one we were just talking about?
Yeah, that's the one we were just talking about.
The Stone Bridge Committee has 1 vacancy. The Tree Commission has a vacancy, and Wastewater Management has a vacancy. So, thank you very much. Call Nancy if you're interested in the job.
Councilor Gerlach. Town Council sponsorship of a holiday food drive to benefit Tiverton Food Pantry at the East Bay Community Action Program.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you to the council for allowing this on the agenda. This certainly, I don't want to make light of this, but I do appreciate, the ability to address this and have the town council take a leadership role in helping those in our community who do need the help. I took the liberty of reaching out to Mrs. Susan Schenk, who's the Chief Operating Officer of EBCAP. And I had a particular interest in getting some data and information on kind of what the hunger issue kind of looks and feels like in Tiverton, so that we don't necessarily forget that hunger in our community is a real and pertinent issue. So I just real briefly just want to just talk through some key data points here. So I had asked for data in terms of the Tiverton Food Pantry use from November 1st, 2011 through October 31st, 2012. And just a couple interesting figures here. So there was 1,021 individuals who used the food pantry in that time frame. That represents 469 families or households. On average, about 120 families or households use the pantry monthly. And in total, there were 3,590 total visits to the food pantry during that 12-month time frame, which averages about 300 visits per month. They estimate that approximately 1,500 pounds of food are distributed each week, or about 6,000 pounds a month. So I only share those data points as a way of making sure we're all mindful of how important this service is in town. So in terms of sponsoring the food drive, I'm proposing that the food drive run from November 27th through December 17th, that the food drop-off location be here at Tiverton Town Hall during normal business hours and any applicable after-hours meetings, subject to that being okay with town clerk or so on. And then, I'm happy to handle transport of the food to EBCAP on the 18th. They have certain days that they can accept food, so I'm happy to coordinate that and help promote this in any of the town newspapers or online or what have you. So,
Nancy, are we having a tree lighting ceremony this year?
We are, I believe, on the 2nd of December.
Okay, because we
And we
could-
do always put the boxes in. In fact, Kate is here tonight from the planning. She's always done up some boxes. She thinks they're downstairs, and we're going to bring them up and do
They also
candy
do a
and
food
big-
drive
Great,
that night,
great.
so if we could promote that also.
Right.
That they could drop it off that night also.
She puts one up at the community center. We'll spread them around as best we can.
Great, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Councilor Gerlach. And I'd like to urge those out there in TV land, please help, bring food, drop it off. I am in public housing, so I see a need constantly. And you'd be surprised that those in need are your neighbors. And so please help all you can. It's greatly appreciated.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bill.
Next is me. Scheduling of a meeting with the school committee per state statute and meeting with the school committee, budget committee, and town council per town charter requirement.
You skipped over
We're
G6.
Oh, I'm
just,
sorry.
we went out of order.
Which one? Oh, I'm
Oh,
sorry.
you again, Bill.
You again, Bill. Sorry, Bill.
Sorry.
I saw Gerlach and checked it off.
No, that's
twice.
quite all right. It's just we're on a roll here. So I think most folks know that the State Department of Transportation is having 2 public input forums on the proposed Secana River Bridge tolls. Those happening on December 3rd at Portsmouth High School, and then, at least it was slated for December 4th at Tiverton High School. I don't know if that has changed or if that's actually part of the discussion this evening here. But I thought it was important that, the council get organized on this and have the opportunity to talk through this and discuss if we wanted to prepare anything in unison, organize how we might want to participate in this as a council to take a leadership role here. I was hoping to just take a couple minutes to ask a couple folks to brief the council, if that was on the current state of the tolls discussion.
I only ask that they be brief, though. Okay?
Sure.
If I could just mention a couple of things first. The meeting is December 4th. We tried to get it postponed till after the holidays. We were unsuccessful. Tomorrow morning, I will be meeting with Director Lewis regarding this issue at his office, and accompanying me will be Chi Loriano and Rob Coulter. We will find out what the agenda will be for that meeting on the 4th. But, once again, we were unsuccessful in trying to delay it. Now,
Jim, could you tell us what time it is and where it is, where the meeting is?
7 p.m.
7
p.m. Sorry.
Oh, yes.
I should have mentioned that.
People who are watching us, oh, that's right, you're not going to be able to see this, that's right.
December 7th.
By December 7th. yeah,
December
it'll
4th
be
at
on-
7
It'll be
o'clock.
on cable.
Yeah.
Okay.
December 4th at 7 p.m. at the high school.
At the high school, okay.
If I could just ask, I see Representative Edwards is here. If you could just provide a very brief update on where discussions are at the state level with he and his colleagues.
Thank you.
And I've learned, coming before the council, you never come unless you bear gifts. So I brought a Rhode Island flag that was requested by your town administrator.
Thank you.
Usually it makes the meeting go a little bit quicker for me.
Only one flag?
Cemetery needs flags.
I know, I'm trying to get a bigger flag for them, but he requested a Rhode Island state flag that was blown out during the storm. I met with the governor a couple weeks ago, and I've met with him previously. This is the first meeting I've had with him where he actually has opened the door a little bit to having more of a discussion concerning alternatives to the tolls. So they've opened the door a crack. You have to remember 2 things. One, the bridge has not been transferred yet. Rhode Island Turnpike and Bridge Authority has not taken ownership of the bridge. The Rhode Island General Assembly has approved the transfer. The governor has signed the transfer, but the transfer has not been made because the Turnpike and Bridge Authority has not accepted it. And they are not going to accept it unless there's a toll on the Secana River Bridge. One of the reasons why you're trying to put the meeting off, and the reason why Rhode Island DOT is not going to accept that, is because they have to have this thing go through between now and August of 2013. If they do not complete the transfer and put a toll on the bridge by August of 2013, there won't be a toll on the bridge. So RIDOT's going to push this thing through. The meetings on Monday and Tuesday here in Portsmouth and Tiverton will be run by RIDOT. Rhode Island Turnpike and Bridge Authority is just going to be there as an observer, since they don't have possession of the bridge. Just to go back a second, you talked about your Secana River Bridge Committee. My recommendation would be not to disband it. Having built numerous structures throughout New England, when jobs come to a close, a lot of things fall by the wayside. The town of Tiverton has some vital interests here in making sure our roads are completed, the bridges in our area are completed, the rain runoff areas are completed, and most importantly, that the boat launch and the parking lot are completed, and that Tiverton doesn't pick up the maintenance for it. Because RIDOT and RIDEM are both trying to push off the maintenance. They're going to make it, they're going to build it for you, they're going to leave it in great condition, but they really want to push the maintenance off onto the town. So you want to make sure you get everything done and built per specs, and then make sure RIDEM comes down here and maintains it. Any questions?
Thank you, Representative.
Thank you.
If I can just add a note to that, the Skyline River Bridge Committee did discuss this regarding, and, you know, Representative Edwards is right on the mark. They wanted the town to take, they would keep possession of the facilities below, which would be the boat dock, the ramp, and so on, and the parking lots. And they would retain ownership, but we would maintain it. And the Secundit River Bridge Committee did notify Kazim Fahuman, who was...
Just Kazim.
Fahuman, I remember that.
Yeah.
We did contact him, and I spoke to him, and I indicated that we were not interested in taking the maintenance. And subsequent to that, I was notified by the Chief of Planning from DEM that they had a proposal we couldn't refuse. I said, that one I'd like to see. We haven't seen it yet. So, I don't know whether they have, you know, abandoned their theory. I doubt it, but...
No, they proposed something to me, that kind of floated it out, and I said, I really don't think the town would really like that particular proposal.
You know,
You're more than welcome to hear it when they bring it in, but I really don't think it's a good deal for the town.
we don't have the ability to pull the floats out and put them back in, and so on and so forth. We'd have to hire out to do that.
And nor can you charge for, like other states do, you park your car there, you're able to charge a fee. Ride-on, when they build it for everyone in the state, including out-of-staters, so you're not allowed to charge for parking or for usage.
Well, Mr. President, while we have Mr. Edwards here, I did have one question, and this is an issue I was discussing with Mrs. Loriano earlier this afternoon. And that is one concern that I have about having these two meetings on December the 3rd and the 4th, is that it's still, and I was hoping we would have one meeting, obviously the December 3rd meeting in Portsmouth would follow that at some later date, with whatever information we pick up on December 3rd, and maybe we can actually respond to some of the issues raised by the state. But that's the issue that I had for Mrs. Loriano. I still don't understand at this point. I understand the state's position on spending. That's easy. Anyone can come up with a plan how you're going to spend millions of dollars, whether it's for streets, bridges, or other infrastructure. But did the governor give you any indication of, one, will it be the state's position that there in fact is no economic impact to Tiverton or Middletown or Portsmouth? That's number one. Or number two, perhaps, related to that, I guess, or that it's simply negligible. And that it's, or that assuming and conceding that there is severe economic impact on those communities, that it's balanced off by whatever benefits we'll get by the spending on the infrastructure. But the point I was making, and I was discussing with Mrs. Loriano, is how do we get ready between the 3rd and the 4th as a town, as the town of Tiverton, to begin responding if they drop these issues on us at the December 3rd meeting? And I was hoping maybe the governor gave you some idea as to what his thinking is and what the state's thinking is.
Fortunately for me, I don't represent the governor or Rhode Island DOT. I represent the people in Tiverton and Portsmouth. So I am in the same boat that everyone else is. My inclination is that the governor's keeping his cards very close to his chest, as is Rhode Island DOT. They probably have something they're going to drop out on this as far as an economic impact study. But I would suggest it's probably not going to be as accurate or as detailed as we need to have it. So we're going to have to, there is an opportunity to force them to have further meetings. If the feds don't accept, the Federal Highway Administration, they do not accept or do not think that the towns are getting a fair shake, they can prolong the process. And the Federal Highway Administration can also prohibit the toll. They do have ultimate say.
Mr. President, can I ask one more question? This is what I was discussing with Mrs. Loriano, but I think it's important, is that at least the impression that we had in our discussion, and tell me if I'm wrong here, was that what the state thinks of as an economic study may not be something that we're satisfied with. That is, the state is doing its own economic study, or it's funding its own economic studies. There's nothing, right, I'm just saying generically. My concern is that there's nothing apparently that would require the state to fund an independent assessment of what the economic impact is. I don't care what RIDOT says. I know what they want, and they'll say whatever they need to say to get where they want to go.
And you're going to have to take that approach at the meetings, because you know it is in RIDOT's interest that this bridge is accepted by the Turnpike and Bridge Authority, because then they shed 2 more bridges. They don't have to think about them forever. So it might be in RIDOT's interest to have these bridges shed. It's not in our interest as the citizens of this area to have these bridges transferred.
Yeah.
I know, Mr. Edwards, that obviously, you know, Tiverton, Little Compton, Portsmouth, Middletown are against this. And I think that any study that comes out of the state, whether it's RIDOT or RIDEM or whoever it may be, is going to be biased, because obviously they want it to show the numbers they want to. And I think that more than anything, I think it's, if numbers show up at these meetings, it will show the governor and RIDOT that the people of the East Bay do not want this toll.
I will share one thing. The governor did make a comment about the meeting they had when they had the opening on the bridge. He said he was amazed at how well-behaved and how civil the people who opposed his position were. That went a long way to making him a little more open to not having a toll in this area. So I would strongly recommend that all the groups who go on the 3rd and the 4th maintain a level of decorum and civility, and this not get into a screaming match with Director Lewis. I know all of the people are incensed about the tolls. They just need to be civil in their address. And I think that'll go a long way in the future as far as getting further hearings and possibly getting this toll not implemented. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Edwards. Okay.
Thank you for the flag.
Hi, thank you, Town Council President, Town Council. I'm here because I'm questioning if Tiverton has received adequate notice regarding the December 4th public meeting proposed by DOT and the Rhode Island Turnpike and Bridge Authority for the tolling of the Secundit River Bridge. Last week, just before Thanksgiving, I heard about the 2 meetings, and I came in and I asked the town clerk, Nancy Mello, if the town had received a public, a notice, and she said no. And I said, I heard there's supposed to be a meeting on December 4th at the high school. She called the school department and was told somebody had called and reserved the room for that night. So she suggested I talk to the town administrator, which I did, and at that point he attempted to get in touch with DOT, and then at that point the next day this meeting was arranged for tomorrow, which I think is very important. I don't know if they needed, well, I know for sure that they started their environmental and economic impact study a while ago, just maybe in October. On November the 17th, I, along with 26 other people in the Portsmouth area, received a questionnaire from the Parsons Group, which is doing the meeting for DOT. And that was on a Saturday. Yesterday, I called Mr. Clark, the Portsmouth business director, and asked him if all the 26 people had filed their answers. And he said, he gave me an email which he received on the 19th of November from Mr. Hodges from the Parsons Group, saying, I've had about 20 responses, but I reached out to some 70 or so names. Responses oppose the tolls, as you can guess, some understand, blah, blah, blah. And this is what they're going to base their environmental and impact study, I guess, on. I don't think it's a complete tested questionnaire. In the meantime, we have the Secundit Tolls Opposition Platform has approximately 200 of our own questionnaires out, very simple to fill out, and there's a feature on it where you don't have to give them your name. We will keep the questionnaires, and they'll be numbered, and the state will not, and the DOT will not have the names, because if anyone might be afraid of retribution because of their answers. We hope, we're rushing it to get these ready for December the 4th, but again, my question is, I'm looking at other states where they've had tolls, and I see, all kinds of announcements made. I see where the people can review their impact studies prior to the meetings. We're being told the result at the meeting. And as he said, what do we do the day after they give the report in Portsmouth, and people might hear what's going on over there and not come to our meeting in Tiverton? And it's vitally important that we have at least 1,000 people. We're looking to have 1,000 people from each area at those meetings. Joy has, and she'll tell you how many contacts she has, how many letters we have, how many petitions we have. And what I would like to see the council do is, for this meeting tomorrow with DOT, Mr. Lewis, I would like to see the council perhaps talk and see if it's possible to say, we want this put off because we never got notice. Our people, how does Tiverton know about it? The only thing I found anywhere talking about this meeting was an article that I gave you a copy of, which appeared Thanksgiving in the Herald News. And that's where it tells you about the meetings. So what kind of notice is this to the public? It's certainly not like I've seen in other areas. And is this a legitimate meeting? It's also a lot of things on in this article from Mr. Berman, who's saying now that this is something that's going to be approved by the Moving Ahead for Progress and the 21st Century Act. I did a lot of research today on that, and I couldn't find anything in there regarding tolls. Mr. Darlington on the 20th wrote to a lady and said that in order to be able to execute the completed transfer agreement, a National Environmental Policy Act, NEPA, reassessment process is underway. Now, who's NEPA? I don't know if we have any answers, and what I'd like the council to say is, you know what, you can ask for the meeting on the 4th, but officially, we are objecting to it. So it might come in handy in the future if we have some recourse, it might not, but if you don't say anything, it appears that you approve of this meeting, and it might hurt us in the coming weeks.
Well, I think with Mr. Gonzalo meeting with them tomorrow, he's going to voice our concern and saying that we are not for this meeting. And I will put on my other hat that says the state, this was in other papers. If I think it was in the Journal, and I saw it one other paper. It might even have been
The announcement?
Yes, about a meeting. It wasn't any announcement, it was an article about
Yeah,
holding
someone wrote an
meetings.
article,
Right.
but there was no official
There's no
announcement by the DOT or anything.
Yeah.
No, and it's
But-
not even on their website, as far
Right.
as we can see.
Yeah, but again, I mean, that's,
So it's hearsay.
It was, we get to tell a reporter, and a reporter writes an article, and that's how the town gets notified?
again, I can't speak for the DOT, but I'm just saying that it has been out there. So we're going to voice our concern, saying that we don't want this meeting, but we have no mechanism to stop it.
No, but can we,
no.
I guess what we're asking for maybe is some kind of resolution that, yes, the town council is unhappy, and we want to make sure it goes on record that, we were not notified, and that we don't feel that we were given enough. And obviously, we're still going to attend because they're still going to have it. But if we have to come back later on and say, hey, listen, we already are on record saying we were not notified and that this isn't the right way to go about making the town aware. We just want to make sure we have something, that he can bring or that is on record, that you guys,
Representative Edwards said that there's a possibility we might be able to have future meetings, but the only thing that the federal highway requires is one public meeting. They don't have to give us any more meetings, but that resolution that you might give might help us.
Mr. Edwards?
It was actually officially posted in today's Newport Daily News by Rhode Island DOT.
I didn't read the Newport Daily News yet
So
today.
it's what, a few days notice? Well, I guess if you're satisfied with a few days
No,
notice.
as I'm saying, I'm not, and I'm asking Mr. Gonzalo to voice the council's, if you want us to take a vote, I'd be more than happy to take a vote saying that the council is displeased with the way that this meeting is.
I can certainly mention that tomorrow. Obviously, as I indicated, I already talked to the director about postponing the meeting, and and one of the other things I told him was that I didn't think that our business community was adequately notified. And he said that they sent out notices to the people that they received the names of. And there were just a few. I can't remember how many, there were just a few.
I don't know of anyone in Tiverton.
3 or 4. And I asked him who submitted the list to him. He couldn't answer me. He said he would get back to me, but he hasn't. And I did get a telephone interview with the representative from the company who was doing the environmental study, but I don't hold a lot of faith in that.
Well, if it's the council's pleasure, I will entertain a motion regarding sending a message with Mr. Gonzalo that the council is opposed to the type of notification given to the town of Tiverton.
I'm also concerned about what Mr. Gonzalo said about none of our businesses have been included in this. I mean, like she said, she got a notice on a Saturday, the 17th, and on that Monday, I mean, she got his on Saturday, on that Monday, the fellow was saying he didn't get any back. She had just gotten it on the Saturday, and she didn't see any Tiverton businesses in her list.
And there was no, when I got the notice on the 17th, there was no date that you had to have it back by. So, that's why they only got 20 responses, I guess.
I'm worried we're not getting our fair say in what's going on.
Mr. President, I would like to suggest that we send Mr. Gonzalo to Providence tomorrow with really 2 instructions, and I think these are important.
Aren't you going, are you going, Jay?
I really wasn't able to go, but I'll talk to you about that later. I spoke to Mrs. Loriano earlier this afternoon and found out about the meeting just this afternoon, but I'll talk to you about that after. One would be, we're perfectly happy with the Portsmouth meeting on December 3rd, because if we're ever going to get information, I assume it's going to be at that meeting. But that, in fairness to the town, we should have a later date so that we can actually assess in some way what they're telling us, especially if they're going to drop any reports on us. And secondly, I'd like to find out whether or not the Department of Transportation is ever going to consider an independent impact study, and whether they'll consider that and fund it, rather than relying on what I assume is their in-house facilities. But those are the 2 things, I believe, Mrs. Loriano, that you want to be pushed on behalf of STOP, and I agree with you 100%.
Well, I will entertain a motion to that.
Okay. Well, I'll make a motion to that effect, instructing Mr. Gonzalo as our town administrator at the meeting tomorrow with the Rhode Island Department of Transportation to raise both of these issues as a position of the Tiverton Town Council.
Could I just amend that slightly to Councilor Lambert's, to also include a comment regarding our dissatisfaction with the process of how the December 4th meeting was advertised and communicated, not only to the council, but the business community and community at large.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
What's the motion you have?
I have that we send Mr. Gonzalo to Providence, to Rhode Island DOT meeting with 2 instructions. One, that they are happy with the Portsmouth December 3rd meeting, but fairness to the town of Tiverton, that we have it at a later date so that we can actually assess in some way the information. And secondly, we'd like to find out if RIDOT is considering an independent impact study rather than rely on in-house. and that he raises both issues as a position of the Tiverton Town Council, amended by Councilor Gerlach, to also comment on the dissatisfaction of how the December 4th notice to the business community and community at large was handled.
And I'll adopt Mr. Gerlach's amendment.
I have a quick question. We're certain that their economic impact study is being done in-house?
I don't think so. I think it's being done by...
I don't want to say that.
It's done by the Parsons Company. I think they're out of Boston.
Okay, and I would just be cautious about saying that a private contractor is in cahoots.
No, I'm aware that it's not a private, that they're not doing it
Let's delete
in-house.
that portion. That's-
Okay.
But the,
Just saying, a subsequent independent.
Lambert?
Maybe just say independently
Just to say
commissioned.
independent.
Well, Parsons isn't.
Yeah, that's what I'm worried about. I don't want the Tiverton Town Council saying the Parsons Group are a bunch of hooligans who are, under the thumb of DOT.
Do we,
I might add one comment.
do we know what the assignment is to this Parsons group? I mean, specifically, what are they trying to address, and what are the issues?
I don't think we'll find that out until the 3rd.
The 3rd, as long as we get out of the 3rd, yeah?
The types of questions that I was asked on the phone by this group, what types of, how is it going to affect, the people? It wasn't really an environmental study that I'm aware of, but it was more of an economic impact study. But that being said, if I'm hiring you to do a survey for me, and you know what I want to happen, and I'll drop it there.
So you're basically saying that the Brown DOT gave the parameters for the study?
I really...
So we can...
I will ask this a little bit on far afield, and we shouldn't discuss that portion.
Right.
Yeah, because I want to... I don't want to...
Antagonize.
Yeah, and I don't want to say that either if it's not true, because we don't
So
have any evidence that it is.
if you may, we'll just delete that portion regarding in-house.
The other question I have might, this idea that we're happy with the Portsmouth meeting, but we want our meeting changed is a little strange to me.
Just the wording.
Yeah, maybe we can switch that around so it doesn't sound like we're saying, we don't care about Portsmouth, let them do their thing. They can fend for
I would
themselves.
say that it's not giving the town of Tiverton enough time to react and to assess the information that would be given out on the 3rd.
Yeah, I think, they're meetings that are to mirror each other, not necessarily designed as a reaction to. It's one for Portsmouth, one for Tiverton, and I don't want us to say, the one for Portsmouth, we couldn't care less about, but the one for Tiverton, we really are the important people here. We need to be separated and given preferential treatment too. So there's some verbiage, and I know the intent is we're on the same page, but I just don't want it to sound like...
So should we just drop that part and just say we're not happy, we haven't been given enough notice, and Tiverton needs to do more research and not even address?
Yeah, I mean, because I don't think Portsmouth has been given enough notice either for their meeting.
I mean, they seem to be going forward with it, but...
Yeah, I mean, it's, you said it earlier, the meeting's gonna take place whether or not we stomp our feet or not, because they're gonna have it. We might as well show up. But, the way that this is going about, I mean, and that's how you announce something you don't want anyone to come to. You should do it on a Friday afternoon, or you do it on a holiday, or you do it on a weekend. So, I mean, it's obvious that they're playing the media timetable, but there's some language that doesn't sound like we're petulant. It sounds like we're businesslike and we're angry.
Do you want to restate that motion, or are we going to take a vote on that motion?
Yeah, let's modify to the...
Mr. Lambert.
Let's modify it here, just to state that the Tiverton Town Council, based on feeling that they have been notified in enough time, and then regarding the community and all that other stuff that was said, would like more time in order to prepare for this meeting.
Do we need to include anything in it about the businesses that are being included in the study, or?
Well, again, we don't know if they just targeted, they could have just targeted Portsmouth. We don't know that, so we can't speak to what their intent was.
So how do we find out what's going on with this?
Well, we don't know until
We get the results? We're gonna wait for.
Well,
the meeting.
Or perhaps, Mr. Gonzalo, you could bring back that information?
I'm going to try to, and I'm going to approach them again on notification to our business community tomorrow. If I don't, she will.
I'd like to ask, too, if there's any counselor that would like to attend tomorrow's meeting. It's at 1:30 at the Department of Transportation.
Okay, I'm going to try to be there. I
Great.
had a death in the family, so I've got things to do, so.
Could I ask, is Rob going to be there too?
He said he would, we hope, we don't know.
Yes. They asked for a list of who would be attending, and the list at this point is myself, Chi, and Rob.
We can
I'll be there.
One more sandwich, it's not good.
I don't think we'll get any sandwiches.
Don't drink the Kool-Aid.
So we need.
So what's that motion look like?
Could I just say something, please? I don't know how many of you caught the November 16th news on Channel 12, which has crunching the gas tax, and since this is all about revenue streaming, it's immensely interesting, and you might want to read it on what goes to what compared to other states. And as a matter of fact, I would suggest you would read it before you go to meet with Mr. Lewis. And I'll give it to
I'll make copies.
I found it very
If it's in Nancy.
I found it very interesting because you don't really relate gas taxes and the tolls as how other states are handling it, and the whole, and you have to pay back loans, et cetera, et cetera. But it is a very interesting thing you can photocopy or just go on the website.
Thank you.
I'll make a copy of that.
Yeah, and
Between open and closed.
I'll be there.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll talk after we'll meet here, and I'll go up with you. Okay.
I'd like to make a comment, Mr. President. The only thing that I would be concerned about is if we give them too much pushback, that they cancel the meeting and only have a December 3rd meeting.
They have to have,
They
we
have to
have to
have
have, we're entitled to one, so they have to have at least one.
We're an affected town, that they have to have.
So they have to,
Yeah, they have to
they're
have one
required.
in town, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Again, and I have all the confidence in Mr. Gonzalo that I think that our dissatisfaction will be handled nicely. Diplomatically, so that we won't be pointing fingers and threatening to throw them off the bridge.
Nancy, could you read the motion?
Well. But I have Mr. Lambert's motion and second, and I don't have a vote on it. But then I have this,
I think Mr. Gonzalo perhaps has the sense of the message.
okay,
we're
the sense
trying
of the
to get
message is
through.
going to be
I think.
Tiverton Town Council, based on the feelings that they're not notified in sufficient time and would like more time to prepare for the meeting, is expressing concern with the December 4th meeting, and Council Gerlach's amendment, I guess, still stays on there with the dissatisfaction on the notice to the business community. I'll combine it in it, and community at large, and how it was handled. That's about what I have.
Okay, so Mr. Gerlach and Mr. Lambert, is that fine regarding your motion?
Mr. Roderick, can I make a comment on the study that is being commissioned by the DOT and suggest that the town request funding so that the towns of Tiverton and Portsmouth, who primarily would be impacted economically by the toll, be allowed to commission their own independent economic impact study. Because obviously, just like any business going before the town council or any Tiverton board, to me, it is very obvious, when you go out and hire a consultant to do a study, you are not going to hire a consultant to do a study that contradicts what you were trying to say. You hire somebody and pay them to say exactly what you want them to say. If you want them to say that you're going to have 740 trucks on a road that's a two-lane winding road, and you want them to say it will have no traffic impact.
Mr. Bettis, we're in far field now.
No, that's just an example of, you do not hire somebody to say what you don't want to hear. So I would think a truly independent study should be commissioned by the towns who are primarily impacted.
We'll discuss that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a motion, we have a second. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
Mr. President, can I just announce that Tiverton is having a Tiverton Stop meeting tomorrow night, Town Hall, 7 o'clock, that we would like as many economic impact personal letters, that we still have blank ones over there. We've gotten about, I'd say about 120 at this point. We've put together a business impact that she's sent around, and we're going to leave some over here as well. We're trying to get them out to as many businesses as possible to collect as much data as we can before the meeting. Anybody who wants to help, anybody who wants a business, please do that as soon as possible. So we cover everything about the meeting? I think so.
Okay.
And if anybody has any questions, but please show up tomorrow so we can talk strategy and how we're going to get all this stuff done.
Thank you so much for all your hard work. Thank you. Okay, thank you. Okay. All right, now, we'll go to scheduling a meeting with the school committee per state statute and meeting with school committee, budget committee, and town council per town charter requirement. For the new councilors, by state statute and town charter, we have to meet before December,
No later than
no
January.
no later than January 15th regarding the first pass of the budgets. In the past, we have been a little remiss in meeting those dates. So I'm asking that if the town clerk will speak or send a letter to...
Well, I think Jim is going to speak on this because he sends the letter and he has a
All right,
copy.
Jim.
I have a letter prepared. What I need is some dates possible. The thing that I'm lacking is the expense. I've got the income, revenue. The thing I'm lacking that I'm working on, and hopefully the treasurer is on vacation this week, so I was hoping to get assistance from her, but as soon as she gets back, we will have it done.
Mr. Rodrick, this kind of goes with my number 8 budget process, because what I was hoping was the town council could have a workshop prior to any meeting with Jim to explain the budget and to go over the line items before we meet with the budget committee or before we meet with the school department, so that we have a better understanding of it.
And we can.
Okay.
But the budget's not done yet.
Right, so what I'm saying was, when we do the dates, keep in mind, I would like a budget workshop, if anyone else agrees with me, prior to...
We generally have, I would submit the budget to you probably around the 10th or 12th.
Of December.
It won't be ready for the December 10th meeting, but shortly thereafter. And then we will send out an email indicating that the budget is in your box. It'd be a preliminary budget. We can review it, and then I would expect guidance from the council. Okay? And at that point, it's an ongoing process. Okay? We discuss them. We generally have 1 or 2 workshops where we just talk about the budget alone. So
Well, that's
the
what I'm
council will
asking.
have ample opportunity, and essentially, we provide the budget committee with a provisional budget
Understand.
in January, and then we finalize it a few months later.
And basically, this is really just so that we ensure that we meet the statutory and the charter requirements.
I would also like that to be an actually productive meeting. So if we can accomplish those two things, I think the ideal situation is we get a first pass at the budget from Jim, or a first draft at the budget, we have a workshop, and then we potentially even have a meeting before we meet with the budget committee to give some amount of guidance. That way, we actually know what we're talking to the budget committee about before January 15th. Otherwise, it's a lot of hypotheticals and theories, and not a as productive a meeting. I think if we can have a meeting with the budget committee before they really get into their cycle, which is a very sort of daunting process for them, it's a little easier to get them started off on a good idea or a good foot with some of our input, and then update them as we go along, versus let them loose and then put the brakes on 3 weeks before the end of it.
So do you like my suggestion of having a budget workshop, just the council, before we get to?
I think anybody that's been paying attention for the past 2 years knows that I love budget workshops. And I will have as many as you will allow me to.
Okay. Well, I think it'll help the new council.
Can I make a suggestion here? The problem is we have all these overlapping timeframes. I mean, some of the stuff, some of the information was supposed to be provided by November 1st, and then we've got the state requirements about 60 days, at least 60, but not more than 90 days prior to the formal submission of the school budget. And the question is that the draft school budget or the final school budget? And we took the position that was a final school budget, which would basically put you between about the mid-December to mid-January. I think we figured December 19th to January 19th. Then you also have, and that's just the school committee and the town council, which doesn't really make much sense in Tiverton, where you have an elected budget committee. And then you've got your charter requirement as well for the joint meeting. So I think, oh, there's another one. We got another meeting. Get meetings with city and town councils. But, I mean, in Tiverton, it seems like you should have the budget committee there. It doesn't make much sense to have the town council and the school committee meet without the budget committee. So, my suggestion, earlier on the agenda, and the consent agenda, you approved a workshop for that first Monday in January, the 7th, for like goal setting, and maybe add what you're looking for, just the council's preliminary budget discussion, introduction.
Is that a workshop or is that a special meeting?
Well, I think we'll make it a special meeting in case we have other stuff that comes up.
Yeah, because otherwise we won't be able to.
And then I would suggest if you have, that initial meeting with all three bodies sometime between January 7th and January 19th, then you'll kind of knock out several statutory requirements at once. And it may not be it may be productive, it may be not, but you have to meet the statutory requirements. If it's not productive, you have to meet again.
A particular, yeah, and that's fine. The requirements are heftier on the school department side, and it's a little strange because we don't have anything to do with the school budget. So those aren't as, nitty-gritty meetings, or meetings. But I think the meeting with the budget committee makes sense before they get into session and they start meeting on a regular basis. I don't care what day.
So you need to pick another date.
I'm sorry?
I think you need maybe a couple of dates in January.
The 7th?
So after the 7th, so that to offer for the joint meeting, because you don't know what their schedules are.
You don't think early on January 2nd?
We're not gonna have anything to talk about.
Yeah, we won't have any information.
That's not the right one.
But it will be like last year. It was 15 minutes long and we didn't do
Okay,
anything.
all right, so that's not the right one. All right.
I mean, if it gets down to making the meetings just to meet the statutory requirement, then that's what we have to do. But ideally, you make it such that you are prepared to talk about actual issues and the process going forward. So you don't have to meet once to say hello, goodbye.
Well, that's what I'm asking.
Yeah, right.
I would suggest we have the meeting on the 7th.
Make it a budget workshop.
What is that, sir?
That's a special meeting.
Oh, we already have it on that, right, that's a special.
Make it a special.
Make it a special.
It is already a special.
It is a special
Make it a
already.
special, along with.
It's listed that way.
Right, so we'll have the budget workshop on that day also.
The goals you can always email to me and that'll be approved.
Right, and then the 9th and 10th.
Thursday, the
Thursday, if there's availability from the other two committees.
And the high school, wherever we're meeting is available. We did it in the library last year. And the year
And that
before.
would be with the budget committee, the school.
Or the 16th and the 17th.
If they
is-
attend, they have sometimes not even started their cycle.
Right,
We went through
yeah,
this last
or,
year.
or again, the
Right.
16th or the 17th.
What do you think, Sally?
We'll send you
We'll send
these
a letter.
dates.
Yeah, we'll send you the dates, and then you'll let us know if it works, so that
The
way.
17th is just the town council.
Seventh.
I mean, the 7th, just the town council.
Right.
And you're looking for the 9th, 10th, 16th, or 17th. So I will email over those dates for you.
Jim, best
And
guess
also
on when you
check
can have
with
it
the budget
drawn.
committee to see when they're.
Around the middle of December 15th.
They
So-
call a meeting with everyone.
If Jim can get us a preliminary budget by the middle of December, we'll have 2.5 weeks in the holiday break to
Yeah, to
to review
digest it,
it and
yeah.
to make notes and things like that, and we'll be ready to hit the ground running on the 7th. Is
the-
my hope.
Okay, now we have a meeting scheduled the 15th, correct?
The
14th.
and the
14th.
28th.
And the 15th is the Tuesday?
Yes.
The 15th is a Tuesday. There's a planning board workshop here.
But, well, it would be at the high school anyway.
Oh, you mean?
That might be the school
joint
committee
one?
meeting.
Is that the school committee meeting that day? Okay. Because I'm just saying, because the charter does say the 15th, but
Yeah,
I
the
think
charter
one day,
does say.
I think one day
I
won't
think the
hurt
day's
us.
gonna make a difference when you schedule
Yeah.
it.
I think once we scheduled it, is that your legal opinion?
Yes, I've always, somewhere I have a memo on the difference between mandatory and discretionary, and I believe these are discretionary times. There's no penalty if you miss them.
As we well know.
Maybe 9th and 10th will work out.
You
Yeah.
also said we should
Okay.
include the budget committee.
Yeah, that's what we're
Yeah.
gonna do, we're gonna do budget, school,
Budget,
and
school.
council. We're not gonna do a separate one.
It's fine.
Okay? Thank you so much.
No
Okay.
That takes care of mine.
Okay. Oh, and that answers Councilor DiMederos's questions. Okay, now we'll move to.
Just to note, and then, for the rest of you folks, hopefully, we'll have those meetings in mid-January, and then it's an iterative process thereafter, and we'll have another workshop, I hope. And I will bring coffee and donuts on a Saturday morning if you'd like. And then we can we hammer it out little by little, so.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, bids and requests for proposals, Town Administrator.
Yeah.
We need to renew a contract for mowing services for the town. And we went out, we advertised for bids. We received one bid, and that was from McGeo's Lawn Care. And the last increase that the vendor received was in January of '09. And the services that we are quoting here are bear with me. Mowing and shrub trimming as needed for the town farm, Bogamash, Pecasset Field, South Field on East Road, Fort Barton, Bayview Recreation Area, Tiverton Senior Center, the town lot, which is on the south side of Florence Street, the town green, which is at the entrance to Stone Bridge, Grinnell's Beach, Town Hall, Fogland Beach, Tiverton Community Center, Essex Public Library, and Union Library. The total amount is $28,108 plus alternatives. Those alternatives are for fertilization and liming, lime applications. The vendor has been mowing these town areas for many, many years. I don't know how long. but it's been over 20 years, I believe. 29. Almost 30 years. This is Mr. McGeough in the audience here, for those that don't know him. And I'm recommending that we award the contract to him.
When you say alternatives, I don't understand what that means. Is that in the event that we want those services, that's what they would cost? Okay, that's what I figured.
And they're under the control of the town administrator.
Okay, so if we have some really horrible grass, we need to fertilize and patch.
Right, or if we have some really nice grass and
We
we
wanna
don't
keep it.
need to.
Oh, okay. Great.
You don't have a little spreader, Jim?
I do, but it's too small for our fields. I could take care of the green down there.
I would happily make a motion that we award the bid to McGeough's Turf Management for, it's just mowing services, town mowing services, for a total contract price of $28,108, plus alternatives of possibly $6,837 for fertilization and lime application for the period of 2 years from January 1st, 2013 to December 31st, 2014, with great thanks for years of dedicated service.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
I have one question. How long was the bid posted for?
I'm sorry?
How long was the advertisement posted for?
I believe it was 2 weeks, was it, Nancy?
Yeah, all our bids usually.
Mostly 2 weeks.
It's 2 weeks, okay.
I just have more of a comment, and certainly this shouldn't stop this from moving forward, but in the future, I'm just thinking about things that are going to be coming down the road. It would be helpful to understand where and when we are fertilizing, as we think about issues of runoff and water quality and so on and so forth. I certainly would not want to have the town contributing to negative water quality type issues. So just something to be mindful of if we can understand kind of where and when we fertilize.
As I stated earlier regarding the difference between an open meeting and a hearing, but I will allow you to ask your question.
Thank you. Laura Epke. Am I looking at the right thing? I just want to make sure of this. Is the contract price of $28,108, is that $28,108 annually for 2 years?
Yes.
Okay. So that the account number we have right now, I believe this is that account number 884459, that we have budgeted $25,639 for this year? That's the
Yes.
right, okay. And we had budgeted $42.50 for the lime. So this would be an increase over that.
Yes.
So the total contract price would be 56.
$34,946 per year.
28 and 28, 56.
Oh, I'm
Well,
just
that's
for 1
fine.
year.
Right,
Yeah.
right,
No,
okay.
28,000 per year
Right.
for the mowing, and 6,800 per year for the fertilizing and lime.
Okay, thank you.
Do we typically utilize all of that 6838 or whatever the amount? Does it go up and down? Okay.
Yes.
I just have a question. Gary Plunkett, Open Space Commission. You mentioned Fort Barton.
Fort Barton School?
Fort Barton School?
Not the school, the playground, the little baseball diamond down there.
Yeah, also Picasset, it's the ball fields.
Yeah, ball
It's
fields.
not
It's
controlled
not
by
the ball
recreation.
fields.
Yeah, it's not the.
We don't do any school property.
All right, any other discussion?
Is there a second?
Just one
Yes.
question. Was this the only bid we received?
Yes.
Have we received other bids in the past, or is it just
Yes.
generally bid? Okay.
Did you get a second?
Yes. Okay, with no further discussion, all in favor?
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, Town Administrator, items and announcements.
The Senior Center will be holding its annual craft sale on Saturday, December the 1st, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. They will also be hosting, and I hope I say this correctly, the Hillside Galileans, which is a country gospel singing group. They will be performing on December the 8th at 2 p.m., and the admission is free. A report on tax collections. We have collected, as of November 26th, 53.33% of our levy versus last year's 53.10% of our levy. So we are slightly ahead of our collections. Now, the Christmas tree lighting that was mentioned earlier. It will be held this Sunday at 4:30. At 4:30, there will be Christmas music by the Star Medeiros and Friends group until Santa arrives on a fire engine, with the high school marching band following. At that point, we'll have the tree lighting. And then while Santa meets with the children indoors, the high school chorus will be singing, and there will be refreshments offered. December 4th, we already talked about that. I'd like to thank the Garden Club for providing 3 wreaths for the town's hall, which are in the back. They were delivered today. We will be putting them up probably tomorrow, but we'd like to thank the Garden Club for their kind offer. That's all I have.
Jim, just a quick question. 4:30 for the tree lighting?
It's this Sunday, Jim, you said?
This Sunday.
December 1st at
This
4:30.
Sunday. We'll
December-
start at 4:30.
December 2nd.
December
4:30.
4:30. And that will be the outdoor activities.
Is the Recreation Commission doing it again this year?
Yeah, 'cause
Yes.
Okay, council announcements, comments, and questions.
I just have one question, or comment. I had sent an email along to Jim and Nancy that our town council page of the website is still out of date. But I would strongly recommend that everybody that's new to the council and those of you who are still
Who haven't sent a profile.
yeah, send a profile in if you want. Joan and I have
I
our
know.
lovely mugs
Very
on
nice.
there.
Very nice.
It's essentially just a little card that says who you are, your background, your contact information, and I stuck the liaisons that I am, the boards and commissions that I am liaison to on my profile, just as a heads up. But it's a quick little easy picture and a profile so that people can put a name and a face and a whatnot. So I recommend you do that and send it to Nancy. And hopefully that will get made, those changes will get made so that people can contact. Are our emails, are these emails activated yet? Okay, we need to work on that as well. Okay.
Anything else? Town solicitor.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have submitted, first item is a request for renewal of legal services contract. And I know some of you are not familiar with me, that's why it's a bit heavy there. What I've tried to do is provide information on the experience of our firm as municipal solicitors, as well as giving you the resumes of all the people in the firm and the subcontractors who are doing the work, so you would know that. And probably at some point also in the future, we'll do what I think we did the last time. We realized that new people didn't know whoever, they saw me, but they never saw anybody else, or they saw me and Jeannie and didn't know anybody else. We'll get one of the meetings where we'll get everybody to come, and so you can actually meet them. And then, so consequently, I would request the renewal of the contract. It's within the Budget Committee's budgeted amounts, as it has been all along.
I put a footnote in reserving the right to ask for more, even though I've been told I'm not getting any more, but just, I might.
You can ask.
I can ask, that's right. And as I pointed out, I mean, this is a legal services contract, which means if you're unhappy with me, you can fire me at any time anyway.
Okay, any discussion from the council?
When is it up?
Well, the last one was never formally renewed,
Yeah.
but, so I've just started it running from January 1st through 2 years from there. So it doesn't, I don't think it should end at the end of November. A new council shouldn't come in and have it end immediately. There should be time, and obviously, you know, I have responsibility for transition no matter what. So for convenience sake, it's running from January 1st for 2 years.
Until January 1st, 2015?
Yes, or December 31st, 2014.
2014.
And as Andy does point out, having a term in a contract like this I'm not sure exactly what purpose it serves. It probably serves the interests of the town and gives the town a certain amount of protection. But as Andy has pointed out, and is in fact included in the contract, the provision that we can terminate at any time. We legally have a right to terminate at any time, as long as we've made adequate provision for payment of services rendered to the date of such termination.
And it also provides an explanation, I think, I mean, for the newer council members, I've talked with them now, but, or for the public as well. Oftentimes, the public asks for a copy of the contract and know that, you know, most of the work that I do for the town is on a flat fee basis. Doesn't matter whether the meeting ends at 9:30 or 1:30 in the morning, you're paying the same. Unfortunately, I can't charge overtime for after midnight. It's a flat fee that I think provides a good basis of service for the town. And then the hourly items are litigation and labor.
If there's any other questions, I will entertain a motion.
Do you really think that it's appropriate for the new members of the council who haven't even met our legal counsel to make a decision at this time?
I'll let them speak for themselves.
I had the opportunity to have a one-on-one meeting with Mr. Tights to review things. I can't necessarily speak to historical performance, but I was comfortable with the assessment of the current state that was given to me at the time.
I also had a meeting with Mr. Tights, and I'm comfortable with it also.
So I will entertain a motion.
I move that we renew, or we, hang on. We approve the agreement entitled, never mind. I move that we approve an agreement to renew the agreement contract with the solicitor and assistant solicitor, Ursillo, Tights, and Rich. No, not Peter yet.
No, that's another one.
In the packet K1.
Do we have a
For the
second?
term of January, for the term of 2 years commencing January 1st, 2013.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Discussion?
Discussion?
I really think that we should go out for RFP and see if we can get services at a reduced cost. At this point, we have basically one option, and you're not presenting any other options. So therefore, I really would suggest an RFP to provide us with alternatives, an alternative cost for this contract. It's similar to going out for lawn services. We go out for RFPs in order to solicit bids for the services. This is a service, and I really feel that we should have an RFP.
I wouldn't disagree, but I would just point out that there is some, and it shouldn't be, dismissed, that there is a good deal of virtue in the continuity of this service versus, and no offense to Mr. McGee, lawn care services that's fairly pick up where the last fellow left off versus the case load that the solicitors have and their familiarity with ongoing litigation matters is important. And I do believe that part of the reason I'm interested in and made the motion is that for not our labor council, I think we would have had a harder time getting the contracts we did in this last contract cycle. I think it was hard work between the council, the administrator, and our labor council, and I think those two items are certainly reason enough for me to feel no reservation about signing this contract or authorizing this contract.
If I could just add something, typically in my experience, we've gone out to RFP. I'm speaking from a business experience perspective. We've gone out to RFP when we've had a new service or there's been dissatisfaction with an existing service. So to that latter point, I guess I would ask an open question to the four returning counselors whether or not there is some level of dissatisfaction with the town solicitor's performance that would warrant.
I have questions on his preparedness. As an example, at the Cemetery Commission meeting, where he proposed the changes to the rules and regulations, there was obviously feedback from the board, and that required changes. But Mr. Tights had indicated that the commission, Cemetery Commission, was the only one that needed to approve the changes, and that then they could hold a public hearing for the particular special case that they have. With pushback from the Cemetery Commission chairwoman and also Nancy Mello, pushing back to Mr. Tights that this should be approved, all changes to the rules and regulations were approved by the town council. Mr. Tights did further research in pulling out the town charter and was identified in the town charter that it has to be approved by charter by the town council. So he was giving misinformation to the commission, and if he did not receive pushback from the committee chairwoman as well as the town clerk, then they would have gone ahead and approved those changes and scheduled a public hearing. So it's a question of preparedness that I have seen over the last 2 years that concern me. I'm not talking about the Labor Council. That's a different situation, and he's done an excellent job on the labor contracts. But I have questions on Mr. Tights' performance, and I've mentioned it in the past in executive session. That's one example, and that's a recent example. And this is what I have seen over the last 2 years. Now, others may agree or disagree with me, but that is personal example, and it's recent.
Thank you.
I'm just going to say that for continuity, and since Mr. Lambert and I have probably been on, we have been on the council the longest, there have been many issues that come up. And yes, there are times when I'm sure Mr. Tights has not been thoroughly prepared for whatever came up and had to go back and do further research. But based on the magnitude of some of the issues that I have seen, I believe that he has well served this town, and I would support in renewing this contract.
Yeah, for my input, and well, I guess to some extent I'm talking as an attorney, and I can honestly say that in the conversations that I have with Mr. Tights and the back and forth, I'm satisfied that he's doing a good job for this town. As a matter of fact, on more than one occasion, without going into details, and I guess I sort of look at this and make the assessment from years of my own experience. And I think Andy, I've often thought to myself, that was a sharp comment. That was, Andy picked up on that very quickly. Well, let me tell you, if you're in practice for 30-some years or 35 years, you're occasionally going to make a mistake. You're occasionally embarrassed. You're occasionally convinced, gee, I guess I should have spent a little more time researching that particular issue. But overall, I mean, I would have no difficulty as an attorney dealing with Andy. I'd have confidence in his good judgment and confidence in his work product. About all I can say.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Okay, memorandum regarding attorney for district court and municipal court prosecutions.
Yes, this is actually an overlap. This is covered in K1 with the details, but just so you know, I mean, Jeannie Scott had been doing the district court prosecutions. Jeannie's practice is going in a different direction. She's getting more criminal defense work. And unfortunately, criminal defense work just isn't really compatible with doing criminal prosecution. Even if it's not the same people, they hang around in the same crowd. So she's not going to be doing that. And we have John Bernardo, who's got a lot of experience, including significant felony representation, and he's doing that district court prosecution. So that was just more for your information before I knew that the other item was going to be on the agenda. And K2 is a letter from Mr. Ruggiero, also, I guess, speaking for itself, but asking to renew his agreement with the town, continuing on representing the zoning and planning.
I will entertain a motion regarding the Assistant Town Solicitor, Peter D. Ruggiero.
Do we actually have a contract? I don't see a
Not
contract
that,
here.
not that I know of, that there's not, it's just an agreement just to continue on the same basis with him. He's put it in a letter. We can do a contract, again, since he can be fired at any time, a contract doesn't necessarily do it, but we provided the same thing so that people will know what it's available. When someone says, I want to see Mr. Ruggiero's contract, we'll be able to provide him with something.
Okay.
So what are we doing now? Are we approving this or not, or are we waiting for a contract? Or is this going to act as our contract?
I think you should approve it or not tonight,
Okay.
and we can follow up with
Okay.
a short contract to memorialize it.
Okay.
So I will entertain a motion.
I'm happy to move that we renew or reiterate our business relationship with Assistant Town Solicitor Peter Ruggiero of the law firm Ruggiero, Brochot, Attorneys and Counselors at Law, as stated in K2 of the... I don't need anything else, do I?
No.
Okay.
Okay, second? Do we have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Do we have a second?
I just have a couple
Any
of
discussion?
comments. Yeah, I just wanted to say, I don't think we have anybody from the planning board or the zoning board oh, we do have.
Kate is over there.
Oh, and Kate's there. From all the conversations I've had with anybody in planning and zoning, Peter has been well-regarded and well-respected, and his opinion is and has served this council on a couple of issues that we've dealt with in the past few years. So I have no reservation about renewing our commitment and our working relationship with Peter. That's my own 2 cents. Oh, absolutely, yes.
Right, we'll have him come as well
Yes.
to
Yep.
introduce himself.
Bring all the suits in.
Yep, all the suits.
I guess I would ask the same question, if there's anything, worth.
For me, go ahead, Joe.
No, that's okay, go ahead.
I was just going to say, for me at least, Peter opines mostly, he's planning board and zoning, but also is an assistant solicitor as well. And so he has given us advice on a number of, not a large number, but 2 or 3 items relating to zoning and planning and land use, either with areas where Andy has been conflicted out or where Peter has a specific expertise, or he's most familiar with the planning board because he is their solicitor. So I have had nothing but good experiences. They haven't been an everyday working relationship, but it's been 2 or 3 good experiences that I was pleased with his performance and his knowledge and his level of decorum and discourse is conducive to a good conversation, I think. He's very mild-mannered, and that helps in a conversation about zoning and planning issues. Sorry, go ahead, Kate.
Mr. Shabbat?
My only comment is, again, it is a service provided to the town, and we should go out for RFP.
Hi, Kate Michaud, the Administrative Officer for the Planning Board, and I just want to reiterate Mr. Pelletier's comments that the Planning Board has worked very well with Mr. Ruggiero. Not aware of any concerns that Planning Board members have regarding his service, and personally, I work quite closely with him and find him to be an excellent legal counsel for the board.
Thank you.
I just have two seconds worth of a comment. The other idea, it just sort of popped out in the last paragraph. Peter's hourly rate is $100 an hour for services, which I think, and Andy's is $100.50 over 175.
Yeah.
Sorry. Sure about that? Sure it's not 100.50? Can we get you at 100.50? I think we went through an RFP process to hire a special counsel about 1.5 years ago, and we saw the spectrum, and they were in that range all the way up to some ghastly figures. So I think for the services we get from Peter and from Andy, I think we're not, if we're paying too much, I don't think we're paying so much that it makes me anxious as someone who approves this contract. So they're just my own 2 cents of the fees, because I know $100 an hour for what Peter does is a decent rate, in my opinion.
No further discussion. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Town clerk.
You have a schedule of your 2013 meetings. We're required to post this on the Secretary of State before the end of the year, so as are all boards and commissions. Of course, you can add meetings and this, that, and the other and change, but we have to post our regular schedule one, so we're looking for council approval to say these are the dates. We try to hold if a month has 5 Mondays, we try to hold the 5th Monday for a workshop. If something comes up, and sometimes you don't hold those workshops, and we just cancel. So we're looking for approval on that.
The only comment I would make is December 23rd is an awfully close.
On as the second one, just like this December, you're gonna have to decide.
We
what
might have
you're
to move
doing
it.
with
Yeah, traditionally, we always take
Oh,
it
you
off
wanna
now.
take it off now?
Yeah,
And then
traditionally,
you
we always
decide to hold
cancel it.
one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
just way too close to Christmas. People are traveling, and it's just.
Okay. So we gotta.
So moved.
We need a second?
Second.
We have a motion, a second. All in favor?
I know
While we're at it,
on
can we
the agenda,
officially-
but- Okay.
You can add it to
But for
schedule.
scheduling, we may need to add this. It would be December 24th this year, so obviously we will not be holding a
No.
meeting at that
Oh, I
time.
think that's fine.
So for scheduling, I would be canceling that
What is it?
meeting.
December
It's on December
24th.
24th.
What
The
is?
second meeting in December of this year.
Of ours.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So for the purpose of scheduling, I'd like to add that.
Well, as long as we're up in time for
That would be
midnight
canceled.
mass, it should be okay.
I don't mind, I don't have to show up. Up to you guys. And so we'll be canceling that if we decide to do on December 10th agenda. If you decide to do anything between, prior to that, you can just schedule it at that point.
Okay.
And just a reminder that I'll be on vacation from December 9th to the 16th, so I will not be attending the December 10th meeting.
You can come in for that.
But you don't have
date.
to worry about anything you send here, because Leona has just as much control on everything with the council as I do, so you just forward to her anything you need done. Okay.
Thank you. Mr. Lambert, do we have a motion regarding executive session?
I move that we go into a closed executive session pursuant to Chapter 42-46, Section 5, subsection 5, relative to acquisition of property for public purposes.
Second.
All those in favor? We're now in executive session.